Welcome to the Tip-Off Show, the show that sets the stage for all the most important news, daily fantasy plays, and bets on tonight's 7-game MLB slate. Happy Thursday. Happy opening day. Happy April Fools. Happy Stabler returning to Law & Order SVU tonight.
Oh, wow.
Ben Rasa and Chris Spags joining me. Guys, how are we doing?
I feel like we got you by talking about MLB before the show. You said 7-game MLB slate. You're so excited for baseball. You're shooing the NBA.
NBA. MLB was on my mind. I'm so sorry.
That's good.
MLB's on everybody's mind here. And how could it not be with promo codes like our starting 9 promo code at awesemo.com/join, where 9 days for $9. What a crazy deal. But yeah, no, we are all in a multi-sport hell of sorts, or I guess, Nirvana, depending upon when you're looking at. But I'm excited to talk some NBA here. Excited to have the full hour so we don't have to rush, and excited to have Dr. Ben back on here with us.
Dr. Ben in the house.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited that this is, when you said MLB, I was just like, it can't be like, right. That's not going to work. Yeah, we are in kind of a sports, I'm calling it purgatory because I'm with the golf and NBA. I steer clear of MLB. It is exciting to have it back for a little while. So thanks for dropping that in chat, Jordan. Appreciate it. But yeah, listen, we got a lot going on. 7 games is the perfect amount for opening day. I'm glad it's not a full 12 gamer. That'd be too much.
All right, that's going to be a joke throughout the show. Quick programming note. Tomorrow, the tip-off will have its own stream at 3 p.m. Eastern. We're going to talk NBA and MLB. That's where that came from. So don't forget to mark your calendars. 3 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have our own stream, the tip-off. Be there. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for countless hours of content on the NBA, NHL, PGA, MMA, NASCAR, and every other sport that is in season. Let's talk about our sponsor, No House Advantage, really quick, who is taking a different spin on daily fantasy sports by offering player prop contests across the NBA, MLB, NFL, and PGA for cash prizes. This exclusively peer-to-peer fantasy sports platform levels the playing field and makes it easier for you to win real cash compared with your traditional DFS sites. The best part is you can join for free today. Just download the No House Advantage app and use promo code Awesemo to receive a first match deposit bonus of up to $20. Be your friends, not the house. Win big with player props today. We're going to get to our bad beats, but guys, I take it neither of you are Law & Order SVU fans. No one had anything to say about Stabler's return.
No, I know it exists. I know people like it. It's odd to me that that's the show that a lot of women I know and a lot of intelligent women are just like, yeah, I just want to watch a show where they're sexually assaulting or abusing somebody over the course of an hour. And I don't know, it's not for me. More power to them though. That show has been on as much as anything, I guess, besides wrestling. So
22 seasons.
Yeah.
How don't they run out of ideas?
You would think they do a lot of rip from the headlines. So it's a lot of current events.
Yeah, and we always be having crime. That's one thing you could say as an American. Boy, we sure love having crime.
You sound like my mom. She's like, why do you watch this? It's kind of dark. And I was like, I don't know. I like solving mysteries.
What channel is it on?
NBC tonight. Not an ad.
All right.
If we were getting NBC money, I wish. Things would be looking a lot rosier here. My sweatshirt would be 10 times nicer.
All right, let's head over to our bad beats. Last night's slate ended up like it always does lately. A lot of late injury news and completely different plays than we thought we'd have earlier in the day. How did you guys make out last night? Ben, we'll start with you.
It was all right. So I was saying before the show, I was complaining. I really missed what, in hindsight, was an easy live betting spot. The Nets were sleepwalking early against the Rockets, and it just seemed inevitable that the talent discrepancy would pick up. Flash forward to a couple quarters, and then the Nets ended up winning pretty comfortably. They did not cover the number, though. I had a position on the Nets, and they did not get there, and I should have cost average down and hit them live. I didn't. That was disappointing. It wasn't a bad beat. It was just a stupid oversight on my part. So that was the key thing. I mean, looking at the Lakers every time they're on the slate, it's just not a team that's competitive right now for obvious reasons. But for me, the Nets, and now we'll see what they can do tonight, shorthanded again.
Yeah, yesterday I ended up with 90% Giannis because of the value that was available out there. So I basically had to wait until the end of the night to even know if I was going to be winning anything or losing everything, and ended up making out a little better. And it's kind of a bummer because Giannis had a very mediocre day against a Lakers team that shouldn't have been able to limit him in any meaningful way. So I think for the most part, I'm happy with my process. I did something this week with my lineup sorting that just for people out there who it's always an iterating process, at least for me, I think, where you want to have your reliable projections, you want to have all that stuff. But I started this week just cutting out the top 150 owned lineups when out of my crunch every single time. And that alone has been fantastic for me. And I think it's been, even on the days that are mediocre, I've been doing pretty well with that. So it's just sort of trying to find little wrinkles here to keep myself engaged. And Steve Mikalik was even good yesterday. So I feel like if there's any sign that the world was shining upon me last night, it was that Svi was vaguely competent.
Fantastic. I'm sorry, Jordan. Does he have Ben Rasa emojis in the chat?
See what they've done?
How do you do that? That's amazing.
It's the world we live in.
I want
NFTs, emojis. I know.
I know we have a money hat for me now, but I couldn't get my likeness, I guess. I'm just distilled down to a hat, which is a little offensive. And meanwhile, Ben's a Photoshop of a doctor, which I think is great.
That's fantastic. I still don't even have a wrench on my name. I don't even know what any of this means. No one explained it to me, but I'm not important enough, I guess.
You think you want an emoji until you get one, and then you're going to be very sorry that this conversation came up, let me tell you. As chat just spams my face here.
Jordan's going to give me a wrench.
All right.
Hi, guys. Okay. Oh, my gosh. There we go. Wow. Okay. I don't even know what the wrench means, but I think it means I'm somewhat important.
You can finally ban any trolls you want, though. I think we're not supposed to ban it, but you can mute any trolls you want, and then hopefully they'll still become an Awesemo Plus member because they enjoy being mean to us.
Great spin on that. Let's head over to our key news of the day. Zion Williamson and Lonzo Ball are out for the Pelicans, while Brandon Ingram was downgraded to doubtful. Spags, who's a must-have play against Orlando with all the New Orleans stars out?
So look, I think it's got to be Eric Bledsoe, and I hate it. I know our pal Greg Ehrenberg loves Eric Bledsoe, would probably die for the man if he could. But I think overall, Eric Bledsoe this year as a Pelican has just been so mediocre. I think as a chalk play today, it just seems like he has to do more. I think I'm going to find it very difficult to get away from a very aggressive projection on my end here. I have him for 39 fantasy points. Awesemo coming in a little bit softer on that, 34.4 for him, which I think still is going to result in a lot of Eric Bledsoe, no matter what site you're playing on. The guy I trust a little bit more is Nickeil Alexander-Walker. We do have a longer sample size of him playing in court time without Brandon Ingram, without Zion Williamson. Going back to last year, he does overall have a 24% usage rate, a 20% assist rate. Those are good enough numbers. They honestly could be higher. I think the smaller sample size this year of under 100 minutes, he's around a 30% usage rate. So Nickeil Alexander-Walker, to me, probably the guy with the higher ceiling. And I think it might be similar to what we had yesterday with the Jazz, where Jordan Clarkson was a pretty good play, a guy who kind of had that median outcome that was basically exactly where he expected it to be with around 35 fantasy points. I think that's going to be Bledsoe today, whereas Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I would say for me, probably has the higher ceiling. But I think really any Pelican you're going to get who's getting meaningful minutes, Kira Lewis, I think, is in play. Josh Hart going to be pretty highly owned today. Really all these guys for the most part. James Johnson, I think, is in play as value, even though he hasn't seen much run so far for the Pelicans. Just two gigantic absences, and Lonzo being out too makes it three. Like that's a lot of usage to go around for a Pelicans team that is still going to have a decent total, even though it's not going to be quite as high as it was anticipating Zion and Brandon Ingram being in.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at the game. The total is 213.5, which is atypical of a Pelicans game, but still they're still a 4-point favorite at home. It just shows the state of the Magic. And yeah, you've mentioned, I mean, certainly Bledsoe, Alexander Walker are going to be play. I want to talk a little more about Josh Hart. I think that he's firmly going to be their sub 6K. He's been rebounding at an insane rate now. They're a great rebounding team. And with all those guys, particularly Zion and Ingram, there's a lot of boards up for grabs. So if the minutes are there, and they will be, he's going to be live for a double-double, as weird as that sounds, with a guy like Josh Hart. So looking at him at 5,700, certainly the backcourt, anyone who is on the court for a significant amount of time against this Magic team are going to be in play. And then, so it's going to be interesting, Spags, just in the sense of James Johnson for lineup construction. Like, do you need a flat min guy there? I think he is in play. I just don't know exactly if that's how you I don't want to say should build, but if the lineups will really trend to that, or there will be enough value where you don't have to go that aggressive.
I think it's a pretty viable question. Westa Wundu is played over James Johnson in rotations, and Wundu is more of a small forward, but did get in last game for the Pelicans. And I have some vague concern here that maybe James Johnson doesn't see enough run. If he's announced as a starter, I think you have to be there pretty heavy just because he's been a guy that, even this year with a little bit less production, still a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy this year. And that's, moving some locations around, being on different teams. He's really been traded a lot over the last couple years, but I think James Johnson, if he's starting, gets a little safer, but minimum salary, I'm probably still inclined to take that stab. I don't know that you need the value, as Ben's saying, but I think with the way my lineup sorted, like I played a lot of Mo Wagner the other day, and we all know how that goes and how it went with Boston. But I think for me, James Johnson, it just seems hard for me to not see him getting big minutes unless they're going to play Willie Hernangomez and Adams together, or Hayes and Adams together. And I just don't see that being that likely.
James Harden is out for Brooklyn alongside Blake Griffin and Kevin Durant, while LaMarcus Aldridge is expected to make his debut tonight. Ben, who looks like good for this new configuration of Nets versus Charlotte?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Kyrie is going to be one of the most popular plays on the slate. I think there's a very real chance he has the most points fantasy-wise on the slate. He's going to be doing everything tonight. The Nets, this is the luxury of having many, many superstars. They're still a 2-point favorite at home, 221 total. Other than Kyrie, I mean, Bruce Brown, I think certainly will benefit. He's a reasonable price tag, but you are competing against a lot of other value plays. We just rattled off a bunch for New Orleans. They're a little more expensive. Joe Harris kind of just does what he does. I think you could go to him, but it's not like his role, in my opinion, is going to get wildly different. He certainly can get hot from behind the arc, but, he just needs someone to distribute. Kyrie is the guy, obviously. 9,800. I think that's going to be a very, very key question no matter what you're doing tonight.
Going back to last year, Joe Harris, I think jumps out a little bit just because he has a 19.5% usage rate in court time without LeVert, without Harden, without Durant over that entire sample. It's not a lot of court time you're going to find without Harden this year, but definitely I think, and LeVert as well before the trade. So I think you kind of have to go back to last year to try to get a read on Harris. Still not, to me, playable enough as a value play, but in the hunt. But I think really Kyrie is the one where yesterday I mentioned from the show, and it was one thing that didn't change, thankfully, throughout the day. Is a lot of things change with the NBA every single slate, but I mentioned I was probably just going to go and lock in Fred VanVleet, did lock in Fred VanVleet. And I think to me, that's where Kyrie is for this situation. His assist upside is gigantic. Again, going back to last year for him without all these other high usage Nets players that have been in the rotation, guys like LeVert and Harden and Durant. Kyrie's got a 37% usage rate. I knocked down to 35 just so the projection doesn't get out of control, but a 42% assist rate. Like, these numbers are really good for Kyrie, and he's probably got to go back to his usual point guard form. So I think he's a big time priority play. You can get a Tyler Johnson in, you can get to Joe Harris. And I don't think I would play LaMarcus Aldridge, who's only projected for 18 minutes by Awesemo today, who's hasn't been on the court for a while, wasn't in the best condition anyway, even before that. But I think going to Kyrie today with no Harden, that's the play I think you have to make even in all of your lineups. I would be really afraid to not play Kyrie because I think he has a slate breaking ceiling.
Jarrett Allen and Larry Nance are out for the Cavs while Kevin Love is questionable. Isaiah Hartenstein had a great game against the tough Jazz with those guys out last game. So Spags, is he a must-have value play versus Philly tonight?
Hartenstein got to 26 minutes last game, even though we got into foul trouble, I think 2 minutes into that game, and missed probably a good amount of time he would have. Love coming back isn't great for him if that is how it ends up working out. He's questionable right now, as Kayla just mentioned, but I think if Love is out, especially, I think you have to play Hartenstein here. I really don't see why you wouldn't. I think that he, unlike a Mo Wagner, who's been similarly productive per minute, but just seems to get the hook no matter where he's playing for whatever team. I think Hartenstein, he has gotten run at pretty much all the locations he's been over the last year and change. And I think to me, that does say something for him that he's been productive in all these spots. People keep being willing to give him minutes. It does seem like Cleveland wants to play a big man. So if they want to play a big man, I will play the big man too. And I think Hartenstein at his price, still a very good value play. Maybe not quite as cheap as James Johnson, but I think a little more reliable based on what we've seen and what we talked about earlier with James Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy certainly I don't know a ton about, but looking at it, he was only 2 for 8 from the field. Now, one thing I did dig into, because I was just like, is this guy some type of, Jokic type passer? That seems like an outlier, 7 assists in that last game. I don't think we will see that again, but the rebound should be there. He's certainly live to give you a couple of assists. And when we're talking at these type of price tags, you don't need that much. If he sees minutes, if he can stay out of foul trouble, if Kevin Love is out, I think it solidifies it. He is clear value on the slate in the front court of the Cavs that are devoid of options.
John Collins will be out for at least a week for the Hawks after he was hurt last game. Solomon Hill started for Collins in the second half. Does he or anyone else meaningfully benefit from Collins' absence, Ben?
So, I mean, I think you can look at Capella if you want to spend up 77. The Spurs are a team, not a great rebounding team, in my opinion. I think the Hawks will have the advantage on the boards tonight. And just looking at this is a straight pick 'em in the betting market, 222 total. So should be a very competitive game. Obviously, I mean, you've got guys in the backcourt that aren't going to be really effective with Collins out. I'm sure Trae Young wants him in there, but minutes and things won't be affected. I think it's more product though. With 7 games here, we've already talked about several pay down positions. We just talked about with the Cavs, a great option, certainly with the Pelicans. I don't think I would be looking to the Hawks for extreme value, even if Collins is out here. Maybe Capella certainly is a pay up option, but I don't see a lot that I think, ranks above the other value options on the slate.
One thing that jumped out to me, again, trying to find a larger sample size going back to last season, because the Hawks are different with Clint Capella out there, but and I think they are a little bit different with Gallo and Bogdanovic too, but it was interesting to me, and I'm probably going to still land somewhere in the middle. But going back to last year without John Collins, Trae Young, a 39% usage rate, a 46% assist rate. These are pretty big numbers. The assist rate, not that big of a jump, but still there's more time with the ball in his hands, I think could benefit Trae in a meaningful way. I do think that having him in for 39% usage is a little bit aggressive, because you're going to have Bogdanovic getting up a few more shots. You're going to have maybe Gallo starting here, getting up a few more shots. I think there are a lot of ways that Trae won't be quite as good as a longer-term sample going back to last season, but I still think Trae has to take a big jump upwards. And I agree with Ben too. I think that going to Capella seems like a wise move here. More rebounds to go around. The rebound rate doesn't really change much without Collins, but still a little more usage for him. I think probably a few more easy shots at the rim because of no Collins out there. That seems like a positive thing for him. But I think really, I agree that the value on this spot, to me, I think people will chase Bogdanovic. I think you can maybe force him in a little, but if he ends up highly owned because he has a really big box score effort last time out when Collins went out, I think that it's not the right idea. I think just taking Trae Young and Capella, giving him a meaningful upgrade is the more appropriate move.
You say Bogdan's name very well, by the way.
I am a big Bogdan guy.
Paul George and Serge Ibaka are out again, while Marcus Morris is questionable currently in the last game on the slate versus Denver. Spags, who looks like a late night hammer for the Clippers?
I really like Kawhi Leonard in this spot. I think this game stays competitive. I think Kawhi, the last couple games, because he hasn't shown a gigantic ceiling without Paul George, I think people maybe will devalue him a bit more than they should. But Kawhi, to me, is a priority play. I imagine I'm going to get a lot of today. I think Marcus Morris looks okay if he gets in. If he is out, you could probably feel a little more confident going to Luke Kennard. But Kennard, another solid value, even with his price coming up there. Not sure if he's quite as good of a value as a Hartenstein, especially if Kevin Love does end up out. But I do think overall, getting to Kennard, getting to the same guys we've been getting a lot for the Clippers, prioritizing Marcus Morris, Kennard, Reggie Jackson, and then Kawhi really is the one that, to me, wouldn't shock me if you saw 60 fantasy points from Kawhi tonight, just because I think Denver keeps us close. And I think they're also going to be really susceptible to a guy like Kawhi who can get his shot, also start setting up a few more guys. I think Kawhi is another guy who, like Kyrie, pretty close to a must-have for me tonight.
Yeah, I'll echo that. This is obviously a big-time game. We saw this in the bubble. We'll see with the Clippers. They're actually dogs at home, which, again, Paul George being out is news, of course, but I was a little surprised with that. I mean, if they do win the game, Kawhi is going to be at the center of that. The minutes are going to be there, and they're really devoid of other serious options in terms of being able to beat a team like the Nuggets. We're going to talk a lot about the Nuggets on this show, but other than that, yeah, you mentioned Kennard. I think Zubac will be out there. I don't know if I'd want to get to him. The price seems pretty standard. They're going to need him to stay out of foul trouble. And I do think he will be able to mitigate Jokic in some regard. But looking at this 93, there's plenty of value. It's not a huge opportunity cost because of the value. It's not like you're playing Kawhi or Kyrie or Westbrook. You're able to mix and match here. You will have the salary. So firmly in play, and it makes a lot of sense tonight.
Bradley Beal is questionable again after Russell Westbrook had a few huge games without him. Ben, how will you handle this situation with Washington being the first game on the slate versus Detroit?
Yeah, this is going to be, so we'll obviously have to see what's up with Beal. I mean, it's been tough because when Westbrook, your boy, gets going like this, it's just insane. 21 assists, triple-double every night. We saw that on a short slate where it's almost impossible to fade him because the raw points get you there, even if he's not efficient. On a 7-game slate, there's certainly pivots. I mean, you're getting a discount to Kyrie. We just talked about Kawhi. So, I mean, what's there to say? Westbrook's unbelievable, but he's $11,000 on DraftKings. So is he in play? Obviously. If Beal plays, though, and even if he doesn't, I think there are direct pivots. You save some salary, different type of build tonight. So he's not a must play, in my opinion.
I would go the other way if Beal is out. I think that Westbrook is, to me, another guy that I think, honestly, the three guys we just talked about with Kawhi, Kyrie, and Russell Westbrook, I'm just going to basically put in all the value plays, I think, to get to those three guys, because I think you have to play Westbrook every night that Beal is out. He's just been such an amazing player here, where the assist rate gets above 50%, the usage rate gets close to 40%, he rebounds at the same clip, if not slightly better. And these are all really good things for Russell Westbrook. That said, if Beal is in, I really don't know you need to get to either guy tonight. I think still people will want to play Westbrook, because if Beal does end up in, because they'll see those last two games, is something we talk about a lot here, but a guy having two big games in a row, a lot of people don't connect the dots and go like, oh yeah, Beal is out. You guys might, because you watch all these shows, you're playing every night, but some of the casual players out there don't necessarily make that connection. And I do think Beal ends up in, Westbrook ends up probably a little bit overowned for who he is. But if Beal is out, I think Westbrook is one of the best plays on the slate again. And right alongside Kyrie and Kawhi, just three guys who could benefit from having a major star out in a spot where they are amazing according to the rates when those guys are off the court.
Quick detour. What did we think of the Nina Westbrook, Stephen A feud?
I didn't even see
or are we aware of it?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's, I was gonna say, is that a Law and Order SVU episode? I don't even know what we're talking about here. Who?
Stephen A went at rest he said that his triple-double record-breaking thing in Washington wasn't that big of a deal. Nina Westbrook went at him. They went back and forth. He went back at her on First Take.
That's his wife, Nina Westbrook?
Nina Westbrook, yes, is Russell Westbrook's wife, yes.
Okay. Now I'm caught up. Okay. Yeah, no, I gotta catch up on my gossip. I've been slacking.
I guess so. You need to read some side action articles, Ben.
That's just what Stephen A does, though. That's like his whole
right.
thing. I don't get it.
Yes.
She's playing into it. And it's probably good for her, too, because like I don't think we would have talked about Nina Westbrook if she weren't having a feud with Stephen A. So
it's a fair bet.
Good for her. Picks up a few more followers. Stephen A gets a few more ratings points. I'm not gonna be mad at it, but people always hate on Russ, and I think I hated earlier in the year. I think I might have been on one of these shows, or I definitely was on one of the shows. Might have been on Tip Off, where I just railed against people saying like, "Oh, Russ is washed. Russ is washed." Like Russ is a victim of circumstance. He wasn't healthy earlier in the year. He wasn't playing to his full capacity in Houston. Like he's not the player he was when he was crushing everything when Kevin Durant was out for the Thunder, for Kayla's Thunder. But I would say still now he's a guy who's amazing. A hustle guy. And Rui Hachimura, I learned from the NBA Reddit this week, calls Russell Westbrook senpai, because Rui's a Japanese guy. And I think that's fantastic. I love that Russell Westbrook is his senpai, and I hope they can evolve like Dragon Ball Z style or whatever.
He's my senpai too.
You should be everybody's senpai. We were all like more like Russell Westbrook. This show would have a million times more hustle points, I think, every show.
Right?
Not wrong about that. Yeah.
Love him. Love him. All right. In that same game, Hamidou Diallo is out for Detroit after he's had 2 solid games coming off the bench. Spags, does anyone benefit from them to his absence?
I think there could be a little bit of an uptick for Corey Joseph in that second unit, potentially, if we are to assume that Saban Lee continues to be out. I think there's just kind of an overall boost for everybody, not one that I feel crazy about anyone. I don't want to chase Jeremy Grant after we bashed him on this show and Damian Lillard in the one-on-one. Then they both ended up having fantastic days that were nowhere near the median projections for those guys. But I think really it's just more of a little bit of a boost for everybody, where Hamidou Diallo has been coming in off the bench, getting a lot of usage, doing a lot of what he did for the Thunder. Now he's just not going to be in for injury management. So I think you can give an uptick to Corey Joseph a little bit, but on a day where there's such great values on other spots that are a little more defined, I think Hamidou Diallo being out is interesting, but not as interesting as it would be if we didn't have all this other value.
Yeah, I'm with you. Again, it's a product of the slate. Detroit's just been a tough team. And anytime, there's always opportunity right after the trade deadline. There's new rotations, there's new pieces, but there's also a lot of uncertainty on a 7-game slate where there's clear value. I don't know if trying to get a Piston to unlock something is going to give you enough reward for a lot of risk. I think Grant, that, looking at his prop over on Odd Chopper, points, rebounds, assists is at 30.5, just to kind of give you an idea of where he's at. And I do think he can have an effective game, but is he a priority? No. What are they? 3-point dogs here? Yeah. 3-point dogs at home, 222.5 total. So it's not to say that someone on the Pistons can't have a game that pays dividends, but sorting through all those wings, even without Diallo, it feels just kind of unnecessary on this slate.
Malik Monk is probable after he was a surprising late scratch last game versus Washington, helping along huge games for multiple Hornets. Ben, how does his likely return affect the rest of the team?
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting one. I mean, Gordon Hayward has just been absolutely fantastic. He's taken over, he's distributing, he's rebounding, he's doing really everything from them. And they do draw the Nets tonight. So I don't know what exactly to make of it. It's just another body in that rotation. I still think, of course, you can look to these guys, but you're starting to pay the premium. You know, Terry Rozier's 8,000, Hayward 7,900. I don't know if I'd really want to go there again. You know, product of the slate. It's a competitive game with Brooklyn because they are down key players, of course, as we talked about. But Monk coming back, I think it kind of just, again, similar to the Pistons, maybe just muddies the water enough to where I'll stick to the more premium value on the slate.
Yeah, I think I'm with Ben here. I think Gordon Hayward, to me, is still vaguely playable. The price point being cheaper than Terry Rozier. I honestly don't fully understand why that would be the case, but these guys, for the most part, about a 24% usage rate in court time without LaMelo Ball. But big beneficiary in court time without LaMelo Ball has been Malik Monk, and he was probable last game too, so it's worth keeping an eye on, I guess, because he ended up ruled out there. Normally, probable means like these guys are probable to play. There's like a high likelihood of them playing. That has not been the case recently, but it does seem like if Monk is back in, I think Monk himself might be the most appealing play here. Though I think Hayward really seems fine, and you know, Monk can spike a tournament upside, but I think at his price point now, I'm looking at a little bit more. I don't know that you need to get a ton there. And I think it's really worth pointing out, though, Devontae Graham becomes a much worse play here. He's only projected for 29 minutes from Awesemo today. That's because Monk being in just squeezes that rotation where this was basically a two-man backcourt last time with Cody Martin getting some run. Now you have Malik Monk in. That's going to probably cut Graham's minutes by at least 5, maybe closer to 10. And I think Devontae Graham, if you were playing him a lot like I was because Monk was out, don't do that today. If Monk is in, I would say make sure to avoid Devontae Graham as much as you can, because box score watchers will see those results and not realize that Malik Monk is a crucial part of Devontae Graham having a good game or not.
Okay, y'all, MLB opening day, as we talked about, is today, and we have a deal for you. Get your first 9 days of Awesemo Plus MLB for just $9 when you use promo code STARTING9. That's starting with the numeral 9. This gives you access to everything we have to offer for MLB DFS, including player projections, ownership projections, top stacks, lineup builder, and our premium Slack channel. This offer is valid through April 9th. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus MLB today. Guys, speaking of April Fools, have you had any tricks played on you yet today?
I had to do a show for MLB at 10 a.m. my time. Woke up at 8 a.m. after being up till 2:30, as we were talking about before the show. But no tricks really. I don't think I don't think the girlfriend's much of a prankster. We haven't done much in the way of pranks, so I'm hoping I make it out clean. I think they end up more corny than not usually.
Ben, anything from your side?
The only remote prank is you saying that this was an MLB show. That's really
all right. That was my April Fool's joke today.
Yeah, there you go. Of course it was, right? I was trying to give you the out there. No, we've kept it, you know, Top Shots did a pack. I thought that might have been a joke, but it wasn't apparently. So we're going to get through this. Not my favorite holiday. They should delete this immediately. Not an April Fool's person.
Whoa.
What, that's a bad take?
Ben is just ready for the Final Four and the Masters next week.
That's correct.
Okay. Let's head over to our one-on-one segment. In these battles between stars, which player would you rather have in NBA DFS or prop bets tonight? Kicking things off, we've got Ben Simmons. He is on a disappointing run of games where he hasn't shown much of an upside without Joel Embiid. Colin Sexton plays him tonight and is cheaper with seemingly more reliable production lately. So who would you want in this one-on-one, Simmons or Sexton? Spags.
So I've been really going after Ben Simmons a lot, and I've got there a little bit less now that I haven't had as much time to play on FanDuel with some of the MLB stuff I've been working on. But I think for me, I would still go. I don't know. I Sexton projects better, and I want to believe that Ben Simmons is going to be good one of these days. But a down pace spot going against Cleveland, maybe not it. Some chance too that the other shooters get going and Cleveland gets smoked here. They're a 10-point dog, despite being the home team. Cleveland is. So I think in this spot, I might take Sexton just in the hopes that he could somehow, shoot Cleveland's side into things. But for the most part, it's just going to be a Ben Simmons day. And I guess I probably won't be on Ben Simmons too much now, looking at the projection I have for him, even giving him a rate jump without Embiid. He just doesn't look the most playable to me on DraftKings. Still, capable of having a good day on FanDuel, I think, but almost shy of 9K on DraftKings. Like, that's a really undeserved price for him. So I think it probably has to be Sexton just because he's cheaper and we kind of know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And just giving people a peek behind the glass. So for our premium projections right now, and these, of course, can change if news breaks, we have Simmons projected just shy of 40 fantasy points. and Sexton is just 1 point lower. But of course, as Spags just alluded to, you have a $1,700 difference between them on DraftKings. So you're incurring a serious premium tag there. And the betting markets confirm this. Points, rebounds, assists, which it doesn't capture all the production, of course, but it captures a lot of it. Both of them are lined at 32.5. So the books are saying that this is a basic toss-up, but the salaries are saying that, of course, Ben Simmons, you're paying a significant bump up. I don't really see it. Of course, this is a big spread here. They're a 10-point road favorite, but I'll go with Sexton just by a product of the opportunity cost is less. And it looks like we have these guys projected basically equal.
Kyrie Irving stands to gain a lot of opportunity thanks to James Harden's absence. Gordon Hayward has been in a similar situation since LaMelo Ball went out, notching a 50 fantasy point game his last time out. Who do you want in this one-on-one, Kyrie or Hayward? Ben?
I'm going to go to the obvious. I think the obvious answer and just say Kyrie. I mean, this is just a situation we haven't seen much, and it's just going to be his team tonight. He's going to have free reign. The price hasn't shot up because he hasn't had, a series of games like this. If Harden and Durant miss significant time, he would be in Westbrook territory in short order, but that's not the case. I'll take advantage of it tonight. It's nothing against Gordon Hayward. He's going to be busy, and we just talked about Malik Monk in that same game, but I think Kyrie is the obvious play tonight.
Yeah, I think it has to be Kyrie here. I won't mind getting any Gordon Hayward today, but I do think, as I mentioned earlier, Kyrie is a priority play because there's somebody in chat, one of our regulars, Colin, was asking about it. Is it a wise move to fade Kyrie? And I get that desire people have when they see a guy who's going to be very highly owned and you think about the possible ways that he could fail. But it's a big boost and assist upside for Kyrie. It's also going to be at least the same usage he has, if not a bit more. And I think those are all things that this is the spot where it's good chalk to go to Kyrie today. And I think when you start to overthink things in a spot where you're missing James Harden, you're missing Kevin Durant, like that's, I think the worst thing you can do is avoiding a highly owned play. That's good chalk to maybe play some guys that are just going to be lower owned, but have nowhere near the median projection. Kyrie's one of the best plays on the slate, one of the best value plays and the best ceiling plays on the slate. So if you get Hayward, it's fine, but Kyrie has to be the priority.
Trae Young faces San Antonio in a game with a respectable total, and Lou Williams likely to debut by John Collins ruled out. DeJounte Murray is much cheaper with a few less Spurs teammates available today. Who looks better in this one-on-one, Trae or DeJounte? Spags?
Initially, I wrote this one forgetting that John Collins was going to be out today. So that changes it completely where this is a very easy quality upgrade for Trae Young. As I mentioned earlier, the usage for him over the last 2 years has been very high. Even if you mark that down to a number closer to where he's at, he's still going to get more opportunity with John Collins out. Atlanta has a 110 implied total today. Like those points are probably to come largely from Trae or assists set up by Trae. So on this spot, I think it has to be Trae Young, even if accounting for the salary difference. Ben Simmons, higher price, but not as good of a play potentially as Colin Sexton. I think in this spot, you want to pay up to get the guy who's really the one who looks good. DeJounte Murray can have an outlier day, certainly capable of it, but I'd prefer DeMar DeRozan from the Spurs. And I think in overall, I would much rather have Trae Young by a pretty wide margin.
Totally agree. And it's, again, the good thing about this slate is if you get Trae Young, it's not going to prevent you from going to Kyrie or Kawhi, or if you want one of those other superstars, you're going to have the opportunity to do that by either grabbing some of the Pelicans, certainly paying down with maybe one of the Cleveland bigs, or there's a number of areas, and it's still only 4:30. Like, I'm sure more news will come out, as it seemingly always does the minute we end the show. But the nice thing about Trae Young in this spot, even at this price tag, the opportunity cost isn't immense, and that just solidifies it. I think this is a clear answer to him. Without Collins, he will be, if they win this game, it's going to be because of him. I think they have a real shot to do it too. Or pick him, it would go a long way for the Hawks in general. I will go with Spags and go with Trae Young.
All right. Okay, you guys, one of the biggest edges in sports betting is always shopping to find the best line. Betting lines change by the minute and can vary greatly depending on which book you are using. That's why it's important to use Awesemo's Odd Shopper to find the best line available on the game or player prop you are betting on and give you that edge to help you beat the house. Head on over to oddshopper.awesemo.com where we compile the best bets available for game lines, player props, player and team futures, all updated in real time. And now, one of our favorite segments around here, the Dr. Ben Rasa prop bet of the day. It is time for the Dr. Ben Rasa prop bet of the day with his monumental win streak now up to 10-0 on tip-off shows. Can we get a little round of applause for that? Well done. Dr. Ben, 9 out of 10 doctors, your peers, agree that your prop bet of the day is the remedy for what ails any sports bettor. In fact, some have called you the real stimulus because of how you brought riches to our great nation at a time they needed it most with your historic hot streak. An adoring public awaits, so please, good doctor, share us, mere mortals, your prop bet of the day. I did not read that.
As always, a round of applause for Spags as well. Great job there.
Not an April Fool's joke either. We just do this every show.
Yeah. Hey, listen, it's working. So I'm going to say keep it going because hopefully we can keep it going here. So I'm going to go to the game what I think is the best game on the slate tonight, Nuggets Clippers, and I'm going to the best player, the MVP of the league, in my opinion, Nikola Jokic. Now, you would think, okay, I'm going over, but I'm not. His points, rebounds, assists this morning, and this speaks to the importance of line shopping, was at 43.5. And I'm going under there. It is down to 42.5. I still like the under. Certainly, I'm going to steal the point because that's the key of getting these things early. And it's just a product of the Clippers defense. I really respect them. And when you look at the peripherals, that's where I'm honing in. I did this with Zion on the Friday show last week, and it was successful. And I'm hoping to do it here. The Clippers do a great job. Opponents' assists per game, they're in the top 5. Opponents' rebounds per game, they're second in the league. They do a great job of just limiting that. And if the key to me with a prop like this is force Jokic to score 35 real points. If he does that, you lose. And that's fair enough. What I don't want is a triple double. What I don't want is 13 assists, 12 boards, and then he only needs 20 something points. That's going to be a killer. And I think the Clippers are specifically built to really force him into be a pure scorer. If they can do that, 43.5, I'm only laying minus 115 there. So it's a straight toss up. I feel comfortable that although he'll have a good game, he won't go over this total. So we're going to try to put that on the board. And as I ask every time, Spags, are you with me, or are you going to be the other doctor against the stimulus package here?
I'm just one of the mere mortals here for along with the ride with Dr. Ben, but I'm with you on this one. I do think the under, and honestly, I think this line sort of reflects the life before Aaron Gordon, and having Aaron Gordon in there does add another guy who can just take a few more peripherals off the table, can have an assist, can have a rebound that might normally go to Jokic. I think that bodes well for this prop line. So I would have them at just under 40 combined points plus rebounds plus assists. So I'm there with my actual projections. I am there philosophically. I think this is another pretty sharp play here. And again, take advantage of lines that just haven't fully reflected the changing ecosystem of a team. I think it's one of the best prop bet edges you have, whether it be the Dr. Ben prop bet of the day, whether it be looking on Odd Shop, or whether it be on No House Advantage. I think that's definitely one of the things we try to preach the most on here. So I'm in favor of it, and I hope it goes 11-0.
Yeah, me too. I will just, that's a great thing to add in, Spags. I didn't even mention that, they got a key piece, something I think is going to pay dividends in the playoffs with Gordon. And I'm hoping, obviously he will steal some production in this particular game. So product of the Clippers defense, product of the personnel. We're going to root for the under tonight, and we'll see what we can do.
Dr. Ben, why we have you here, what is your take on the Final Four? Who do you like? Did you have any of the teams in the Final Four? We haven't checked in with you yet on the tip-off this week.
The obvious ones like Gonzaga, which doesn't do anything. What I'm going to say, I'm going to hedge it here. Spags, tomorrow, I know we're talking a little baseball. We're talking a little basketball. We're going to talk a little Final Four on the show. So, chat,
okay.
If you're looking for Final Four takes, we're going to have a segment talking about that. We're going to break down the 2 games. I'm excited to talk about it. It's going to be interesting. Sorry to your Trojans, buddy. They were absolutely murdered.
Embarrassing. There was this one stretch where they missed like 10 straight shots, and I was just like, come on. They were due for some negative regression. And I think that honestly, you see it probably in the NCAA tournament as much as anybody, where they were just burying every 3 in a couple of those games when they killed Kansas, when they had the other win against Oregon too. And it sucks. It's nice that they made it that far. It's nice that we'll have a high draft pick in Mobley, but you definitely want your team to make the Final Four, because I think at that point anybody could win it, and that's unfortunately not going to happen for our boys.
It's a good run.
That was rough, yeah. But at least they took out Kansas.
They did, which we all agreed was a good thing.
Yeah. Glad we're all in agreement. Let's move on to our No House Advantage prop or not. Here are some of No House Advantage's props of the day for key players. So guys, I want to know if you like the over or under on them and how many points you would assign. First up, we've got Eric Bledsoe, over under 14.5 points plus assists. Spags, let's start with you.
So I think to me, this is one, and I don't feel the most comfortable with it, but I think it's going to be a play for me in DFS. I'll be making a lot with Eric Bledsoe today. And I think with No House Advantage, I'd probably want to give it a similar outlay. I have Eric Bledsoe straight up scoring 20 real life points today. So I think to me, that means that I have to take the over here and really like it a lot. There are a few more higher probability bets according to Awesemo, and you can always get those no house advantage projections at awesemo.com because that's one of the best things to look at here. If Awesemo is a guy for a 90% chance of hitting the over or the under, those are the things you should be building around. And I think this is one too with Bledsoe. Might not be quite as high as a few others we'll talk about, but a very nice number here. No Zion, no Brandon Ingram, no Lonzo Ball. So gigantic things for a guy like Bledsoe, who I know everybody looks at now and thinks he sucks, but there was a time where Eric Bledsoe was a high usage guy who had 60, 70 fantasy point upside. I don't know that he gets quite there today with guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker getting their shots up, even Kira Lewis, being a guy who's been pretty good at scoring and assisting on the year. But I do think Bledsoe, to me, easy gets to, I think, 30 fantasy points and 20 real life points. And that's enough for this prop. So yeah, I'd take the over and make it probably an 8 or 9 pointer on no house advantage.
Yeah, this is going to be towards the top. And again, it's because you're talking about three main pieces of this team not playing that we talked about with Zion, Ingram, and Lonzo. If he's out there for upper 30s, it's pretty hard. Not like, what would he be doing to not rack up even randomly? And the thing that you want to do, if you want to double check it and confirm it, just go to oddshopper.awesemo.com. You go to his player prop, just points. It's at 16.5. So they are anticipating, over under 16.5 points. Any assists are gravy or a bonus, and we're looking at over 14.5. So even if you don't think he has, a super effective game for the DFS side and you want to pivot to another Pelican, or you want to just pivot to another pay down spot, I think with this prop in particular, there's really nowhere to go. You have to lean over because of the personnel change.
Also, Ted Cruz, personal stylist in the YouTube chat, saying, I'll put 1K on Bledsoe under 15 real life points. The good news is Ben just gave you the line. You get 16.5 and put your 1K down. But Ted Cruz's personal stylist, it seems to be a guy who's pretty thrifty with his money. So maybe still not the move, but you can make this bet yourself if you really want to. And if you're playing a lot of Eric Bledsoe, maybe this is a tease for DFS Hedge, but just taking the under on his prop might be a good way if you are getting him on a lot on DraftKings and FanDuel.
Amazing username, by the way. All right. Creative. Kyrie Irving over under 31.5 points and assists. Ben.
Oh, I mean, the same situation. Kyrie is going to be massively busy tonight. I think we all know that. And it's just a product of, what did we say with that? James Harden not playing. Kyrie, go to OddsShopper, 29.5 real points is projected, his over under there. So just looking at what he's going to be doing tonight, we've seen Harden take this role in the past where he's just doling out assist after assist. I wouldn't be stunned to see Kyrie try to replicate that to some extent. He's going to be well over that total. I think it's more a product, Spags. I'm interested, when you have props like this and there's a lot of injuries, how do you organize 10 versus 9 versus 8? Because this is another good one, but is it better than the Bledsoe one?
I think that's sort of where, if you're playing multiple lineups on no house advantage, and that's not necessarily a move you want to make because we do have, the projections there. You have some days the optimal. I think we're still updating the optimals lineups page or optimal lineups page most days, so you can pull those easily. And I get it. I think if you're hand building though, I wouldn't mind the idea of swapping around or even just taking the Kyrie Irving points prop instead of points plus assists, but. Those are ways to get different that we talked about before, where it's still seared in my memory. But one of the days we had a free contest for no house advantage. Chris Paul's assist prop was like extremely high because Devin Booker was out, and he ended up not getting the assist prop. He ended up getting his points plus assist prop. And I think that's one way to look at it, where that to me is a way you can get different is if you just took Kyrie's points over today instead of the points plus assists. That's a little bit lower probability outcome, but still has pretty decent odds. But overall, yeah, I'm with this. I think this is another 9 or 8 pointer. If you're putting in multiple lineups, you just kind of could swap them around. Kyrie, to me, I have scoring 31 and 31.9 real life points today, over 42 actual points plus assists. So I think to me, that's a really nice prop for Kyrie. Another line that reflects the assumption that James Harden might have played. He's not playing today. So these are the props to really build around the no house advantage. So I think it's a core play. And again, probably a 9 or 8 pointer.
Spags, going right back over to you for Terry Rozier, over under 21.5 points.
This to me is an under. And we talked about it earlier. I'm always a little low on Terry Rozier, and I know he's had some really nice ceiling days. And it was to a point where I was actually trying to look at smaller samples just to get some rates for Terry Rozier that make it all make sense. But to me in this spot with Malik Monk being back in there, I just don't know how you'd play Terry Rozier and expect him to hit an over on this spot. And he can still get there. I think there's always a bit of fear, a bit of concern. But to me, I think just trying to take the unders on Terry Rozier, playing him less in DFS when people are willing to play him at various high price points. I think just taking an under here, if you're not going to play him, but actually, whether you are playing him or not on DFS, I think just taking the under and no house advantage to me seems like the move to make.
So yeah, I mean, I think the real move would probably be to pass on this. This is looking like a true toss up. The line in Vegas, looking at the books, is 21.5, and it's minus 115 on both sides, basically. So it's a really tough one to decipher a ton of value. If I had to take a position, it would be a product of the Malik Monk news. Another body there. Hayward's been great. It's just, I don't know what we really get. And although it's the Nets on the other side, it kind of feels unnecessary to want to do that. So with so many other chances, so many other options, that's a pretty easy pass because we didn't get what we wanted and the line has not shifted in either favor.
And the top prop on the board, according to Awesemo, is Isaac Okoro's points plus rebounds plus assists prop with a 98.9% chance of hitting the under of 16.5. Would this be your 10-pointer on No House Advantage bin?
Yeah, it would. I mean, this just speaks to why, Alex's tools are so important. This is something I wouldn't have even noticed. It would have been an oversight. That's just not a guy, with me betting these props on a daily basis and betting the NBA, it's just not someone I would have been paying attention to. He highlights it and then you look at it and it's clearly one of, if not the best one. So, I mean, what'd you say? 90, it's over 98%. That's even for me. And I lose some miraculous things. That would be hard to mess up. I think that's where you start tonight.
Yeah, I think the one way that maybe you can nickel and dime it is if Kevin Love doesn't end up in, there should be a little bit of a trickle down to Okoro, who's projected for 25 minutes today. But I think I might be more inclined to make one of the Kyrie or one of these other props that we've talked about my 10-pointer, just because I do think that, I don't know, there's some way that Okoro can luck box himself into a few more rebounds, especially if Love is out, but it should be a priority play and one you're playing a lot of. And I'm always a little bit scared of what seems like a very sure thing, just because everybody will also see, or at least a good amount of people will see it's a very sure thing. But as Ben mentioned here, it's Isaac Okoro. I don't think anybody's really looking that hard at Isaac Okoro prop lines mostly. So you're probably okay to play it as a 10-pointer just for personal preference. I think that, especially if Kevin Love is out, I think I'd feel a little more comfortable going to the Kyrie prop as my 10-pointer.
Good stuff. And as always, friends, don't forget to play on No House Advantage, our sponsor, who is taking a different spin on daily fantasy sports by offering player prop contests across the NBA, MLB, NFL, and PGA for cash prizes. This exclusively peer-to-peer fantasy sports platform levels the playing field and makes it easier for you to win real cash compared with your traditional DFS sites. The best part is you can join for free today. Just download the No House Advantage app and use promo code Awesemo to receive a deposit bonus of up to $20 for new signup. Beat your friends, not the house. Win big with player props today. And as we mentioned at the top of the show, don't forget tomorrow we are going to be on an all-new stream starting at 3 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss it. The tip-off, we're going to be covering the MLB and NBA.
And Final Four.
And Final Four. Yes. Be there.
We got you.
We got you. All right. Moving on to our DFS hedge. How can you guys hedge daily fantasy lineups with a bet like taking the over on a prop for a player you're fading tonight? Spags, we'll start with you on this.
I think the Eric Bledsoe prop that we talked about earlier, where if that line is at 16.5 now, maybe even gets a little bit higher closer to game time. If we know for sure that Brandon Ingram's about, that we're expecting to be out. He was downgraded to doubtful today. So I think that line, could be a little bit better, but I think taking the under there, if I end up with a lot of Eric Bledsoe, seems like a move that I could make if I'm going to get as much Bledsoe as I think I'll have. But that to me seems like the one, other than any sort of live betting that may come. And I guess maybe too, for me, taking Denver to win straight away against the Clippers, even though the Clippers are a dog. I think I'm taking the points there. Maybe that's another one if I get a lot of Kawhi, but for me, I think it's the Bledsoe one, just because I think Bledsoe looks like a great DFS play, but maybe he does get there without scoring a lot of real life points, even though you have him projected pretty well there. It wouldn't shock me. It is Eric Bledsoe.
So the problem is like the guys that I think are the most polarizing, they happen to play earlier in the slate. And I think that's kind of a recipe. Like if Westbrook was in the late game and he was last, and you got to that game and you wanted to dodge him, you could take his points, rebounds, assists, and try to bet the over and maybe look to mitigate some of your risk. But the Wizards game is the first game, so I'm not really looking to do that. Kyrie, I guess if you wanted to, but I like him so much, there's no reason that I would want to short him in the betting markets. I think that's just unnecessary. So if there's a reason that you don't want to play him in DFS, I think you should trust that instinct. Don't be hedging it. There's no reason to do that. You don't want to be paying more juice on various things. So maybe Kawhi because he is the last game. But again, I think these are guys that there's not enough ownership massing on any of them where you're going to have enough equity to do something like that.
Don't forget to check out the new win percentage and ROI percentage tools on oddshopper.awesemo.com to see some of the highest probability bets according to Alex Awesemo Baker every single night. And now a segment we like to call Good Dog, Bad Dog. In real life, there is no such thing as a bad dog. In betting and DFS, there are a lot of underdogs who may have no chance in their game. So who's a good dog to target tonight and who's a bad one? Ben, we'll start with your good dog of the night.
So I'm going to go to the Pistons, 3-point home dogs. It looks like it's actually trending to 3.5. So if you are looking to bet this, maybe wait and steal an extra point. I know Diallo is not out, but the Wizards, I'm not sure what's going on with them right now. We'll see what Beal's status is. Russ is putting up outrageous numbers. Rui has been good, but again, on the road here, I do think Granite is live for a big game, and the Pistons have enough. I think they can win on the boards at home, 222.5 total. It's also a product looking at the other dogs here I really don't like a lot. So I'm kind of stuck with Detroit. I do think they can easily make this a game. I think you have, at worst, you'll have opportunities to try to middle this, particularly if they start fast.
I'm going to be a little greedy boy here and take two good dogs. I think there's one that I think could win and one that I think could cover. And Charlotte, I think, can win today at Brooklyn. I like what I see from them overall. I like them getting Monk back. It's another scorer and another hot hand potentially off the bench if things do get a little bit weird with the Brooklyn first unit running away with things. But I think Charlotte's just competent. I think that's one thing that for me stands out in Brooklyn. No James Harden out there, no Durant, none of the other previous Nets who got traded for Harden. I think that's going to be a different configuration than they've seen. And there's a little bit of a learning curve integrating LaMarcus Aldridge too, who very much sucks defensively. I think could be a thing that gives Charlotte some possibilities there to win that. So to me, taking that money line bet, I think would be one I'd be intrigued by. But the one to cover for me, I think Orlando covers against New Orleans, and this spread is moving probably while we're doing the show, so it could change around a bit. But Orlando, to me, they have enough guys now. They're not great guys, but they're guys who could compete against another skeleton crew team. New Orleans, I think, overvalued if this line is anywhere close to where it was on the chance that that Brandon Ingram was going to be playing, or Zion is going to be playing, or Lonzo Ball was going to come back. These guys aren't there today. You're going against the Eric Bledsoes and the Kira Lewises of the world and Nickeil Alexander-Walkers of the world. It's not a tough spot here for Orlando. If they're going to stay in any game, I think this is one. And Orlando did just beat the Clippers, so I think that's something to keep in mind too here. They could stay competitive against teams that it seems like maybe they wouldn't be.
Spags, are you going to be greedy with your bad dog as well? Who's your bad dog?
No, I actually just zoomed in on my Excel spreadsheets and I've lost everything.
No.
Actually, here, I'm going to make everybody wait for me to zoom back out. Okay. My bad dog is going to be, I think it's got to be Cleveland, just as much in terms of I don't think Cleveland can win this game. I do think there's a chance they can cover, but I don't just see them somehow pulling an upset on Philadelphia, even with how disappointing Philadelphia has been with Embiid out. So for the most part, for me, I think Cleveland would be a team. Don't mind them for DFS. Don't mind the Colin Sextons and Isaiah Hartensteins of the world. But I just imagine this one gets away from them by the fourth quarter. So I probably would not like Cleveland as a good dog. They would be my bad dog.
Yeah, I'll agree that I don't think they're realistically a live dog to win the game. If you do, you're almost getting 5-1. 10 points is, anytime you're getting that time, you really just have to not get blown out and come to the fourth quarter, you'll have an opportunity. I'm going to go to Miami. I think that I'm not going to say roll over Golden State, but I do like them at home. I believe Oladipo is expected to debut. This is kind of the time I think if they're going to make a little push here in the East, we could see it. There's, like most teams, better at home, and like most teams, Golden State 9-15 on the road this year. Miami's won a couple in a row. I know Steph is back, but again, Golden State's just a team I haven't been overly impressed with. I think with Miami, a lot of pieces there. They just kind of have to rework it now. Kind of think that starts tonight. So that's sitting 3.5. I'll take the Heat that they can cover a number like that.
And now for make or break, which player or game currently looks like a make or break spot to you on tonight's slate. Ben, we'll start with you on this.
So, I guess because the most important thing I got going is I would love to keep this streak going. So Joker is the most important guy, but that game in general, I don't think, Spags, you didn't mention that one in your dogs, did you?
No. I think they're both like in play, but yeah, I don't think that spread is enough to really feel like either was a good dog or a bad dog.
Yeah, and kind of I'm going to echo that same thing. So I do think that the Clippers can find ways to maybe slow it, but 219 is not exactly screaming under at that point. I don't really have a play on the game. The Nuggets are taking the money. It's trending towards 2.5 right now on the road. I always have this theory. It's not really a theory. I always think of the Clippers. You would think they would be up for these games for the immediate future after what happened in the bubble with this Denver team. And certainly we saw that a little at the beginning of the year, but Denver is playing good. It's a really tough game, but certainly for me, my favorite prop on the night, of course, is that Joker prop. And if that can go under, that will set the stage, even though it's the last game. So the stage will kind of be over, but that would be a nice way to end my night of betting here. And that's what I'm rooting for.
Yeah, I'm with Ben. I think that game is going to be a crucial one for me too. I don't know that it'll be quite as much of a make or break, but as I mentioned earlier, Kawhi to me a core play alongside the rest of the injury affected stars, the Kyries of the world, potentially Westbrook, but right now I'd say Trae Young. I think my make or break, I mean, besides Kyrie, but I honestly don't think that's a make or break. I think just play Kyrie tonight is how I'm viewing that, because I think it's just a fantastic spot for all reasons that we talked about basically over the course of this last hour. But the make or break for me is probably just going to be the Pelicans, because I will get a good amount of Pelicans. I'm not going to be one of those people who runs away from a lot of opportunity. No Zion, no Brandon Ingram. Those guys alone, 30% usage rate guys, that's 60% of the possessions gone. And that's just the shooting possessions, not including the assists, not including the rebounds. Like, it's too much production that's available now to not play a lot of Pelicans. So I'll be playing Eric Bledsoe. I'll be playing Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I'll be playing Josh Hart. Every one of these dudes will be in some amount of my lineups tonight, probably a max 4 for me, I think, because of the opportunity left behind. So to me, the Pelicans are the make or break, and then they allow me to get to Kyrie and watch Kyrie somehow. He decides that, oh yeah, the Earth isn't the planet we're actually living on, and then he just doesn't play
Yeah, you always have that.
That's all I need in my life.
All right, before we get to our fade of the day, we haven't talked about it on this show, I don't think. Guys, since it is opening day for the MLB, who's your team? Ben, I know you don't like baseball, but if you had to pick a team, do you have one?
Yeah, I mean, the Mets actually look like they might be all right. So I root for the Mets. Certainly over the Yankees. As a New Yorker, I've always been on the wrong side of that one, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm team Mets. I'll rep them this year. Why not?
The Mets have some optimism, so I think that's good. But I also grew up in New York, grew up in the Bronx, and I grew up a Yankees fan, though. For me, that was a much more romantic tale when they had guys like Scott Brocious, and I guess Paul O'Neill was a big acquisition, but, you know, guys who were farm system guys who were maybe not highly touted ones. And for me, when you're bringing in the A-Rods of the world, that sort of dulled my Yankees interest. So I just root for all the boys to have fun. I think that's really, or teams of ghosts to have nice games in the middle of Iowa cornfields. Those two things are really what I root for in MLB.
Smart. Do you root for the Cardinals, Kayla?
Of course I do. Okay. Thank you for asking. Yes.
Just checking.
How is it to know that your fan base is the worst in all of sports?
Best fans in baseball. Hello.
Yeah, ironically, they're the worst. That Twitter handle is one of my favorite ones. I still follow it. I followed it for, I feel like 10 years now, but the best fans in baseball Twitter handle, where they're just mean to Cardinals players, and like where they were shitting all over Jack Flaherty, who just because he wanted money for being a good pitcher. They're like, oh, well, you should be happy to play for the Cardinals. Get out of here, Cardinals. Fucking the most overrated fan base in sports.
This is going to be a long MLB season for us. Go Redbirds. All right, fade of the day. Is there one game player or team that you anticipate you'll have a lot less interest in than the rest of the public? Cardinals hating Spags. We'll start with you.
Well, the Cardinals would be one. I hate those guys. So the second would be, man, ownership wise, I think for me, I honestly don't have anybody who jumps out as a hate play. I do think Jimmy Butler gains in some degree of appeal because of Goran Dragic being out. That was a news item that came out while we were on the show. So he's not even a guy I'd move away from. I guess Steph Curry would be the one that is going to pick up some good amount of ownership on FanDuel in particular. There's money to go around, but if you're playing Steph Curry on DraftKings or FanDuel, just know that I prefer Kyrie Irving by a lot. So I think that's the one that I'll get away from.
You see what you did, Spags? Kayla left the show.
She couldn't take the heat. She couldn't handle St. Louis fans finally being called out for being the reckless assholes they are to everybody.
Oh my gosh. Can you all hear me still? My camera shut off.
Okay, we saw. It was a circus. No, you're here.
Oh, well, that's awkward. I'm very close in that picture. Wow. Okay. April Fools, guys. Oh my gosh. That has never happened. My camera literally just turned off.
It was like a Sopranos ending. You were just leaving us all in dramatic suspense.
And that's how I feel about you talking mean about the Cardinals. Oh my gosh. Well, look at that. We're out of time. Guys, any final thoughts from you really quickly?
No, I think I'm excited for tomorrow, excited for to leave some segments and for Ben to talk college basketball. But I think, new stream tomorrow. That's one thing I would push here. Make sure to watch that because we needed the support here now that we're not going to have the deeper dive and live before lock propping ourselves up every day. So tune in tomorrow. But yeah, that's it for me.
Well said.
I just took fate of the day to a whole new level. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you to Spags and Ben for their wonderful DFS advice. I'm Kayla Knierim, the Deeper Dive and Live Before Locker up next. And don't forget, we will be on a new stream tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, the tip-off. We'll see you then.
That was wild.
The chat agrees with me, by the way. Not a lot of Cards fans backing you up.
Do people not like them? I mean, I don't know.
People are jealous of us. You hate us because you ain't us. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Later, guys. Have a good day.
Bye.
Take care.
What's up, guys?
Thanks for filling in.
For sure.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA Deeper Dive presented by Jock Market. I am Dave Loughran, joined, not as always, joined for this specific day by Alex Baker. You might know him as the #1 ranked DFS player. We know him as Awesemo DFS. And I'm sure many times, many of you who have been watching Awesemo channel, Awesemo streams for a while, remember the ship my modem days where every single time this dude went to jump on stream, his shit just kicked out. You would think that he was streaming. You think that he was streaming from not where he lives. Point being, he's got the similar issues today. We thought those were behind us, but that's all right because I get to do a show with my man, Alex. What's going on, dude? Thanks for filling in.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully Adam's modem is en route. But we got an interesting NBA slate. I'm sure a lot of you guys played the baseball and sweating that and building some lineups. So it should be a lot of fun today. It's a great day for DFS.
How's your baseball day going? It's for anyone that's been living under a rock. Opening day, April 1st, April Fool's Day, opening day for baseball. What's going on for you? Any good lineups out there right now?
I was having trouble sweating it because, I mean, a lot of the games started like an hour ago. That people were really heavy on. So it's all going to come down to this Dodgers game, I think, because like half the field has them. They only have one run in 3 innings, but it's Coors Field, so it can turn up in a hurry.
Yeah, they can. I had some Kyle Hendricks because here's the way I looked at it. Don't worry, we got plenty of time, 7 games. I know all of you guys are going to follow us around for baseball too. I shouldn't say follow us around. Follow the shows, follow the channel for baseball. But Kyle Hendricks, right? He's not a great DFS pitcher, but on opening day, you'd think, hey, anyone that can go and work super short innings and pitch deep into games with a low pitch count has got to be at least decent, right? Well, he went 3 innings, Alex. So that was that.
I mean, it was a nice refresher for MLB DFS because it's like NBA. We can predict what's going to happen most of the time, but MLB is like, it could be anyone's day.
Just brutal. And yeah, Jared, decent hairline going on here. You were right. But I always wear a hat anyway. So it is what it is. All right, guys, we're glad to have all of you with us. First things first, hit that thumbs up for us. It does a ton to help us grow this channel and keep us on the platform and keep us doing what we do every day of the week. As always, what do we say? 500, right? Yesterday, we soared above 500. Maybe it was your influence being on the show with us, Alex. I don't know what it was, but whatever it was, let's do that again. And more importantly, hit that subscribe button. That's really more important than anything. People ask for interaction, this and that. All of it's important, but subscribing to the channel is so big for us. So if you like what we do here, you enjoy the shows, hit that subscribe button. And if you hate it, unsubscribe. Just forget we ever existed. But for now, give us a shot. What else can I say? Just give us a shot. Ready to dive into this?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's make it happen. We've got 7 games to hit on, and man, a lot of news came out throughout the day. Not all significant, but a few pieces were huge. And I'll do the same thing with you that I do with Alex or with Adam, sorry, to kick off every show. The New Orleans news was massive because it looked like Zion might play through the pain, not sure. He ends up being ruled out. Lonzo Ball ends up being ruled out. And now Brandon Ingram's almost certainly not going to play. He's doubtful. So a massive hit there. We're waiting on the Bradley Beal news. James Harden leaves in the second half yesterday. He's ruled out of this one. Blake Griffin's out, but LaMarcus Aldridge is playing. Just across the board, a ton of wild moves and injuries. Larry Nance and Jared Allen remain out tonight against the Philadelphia 76ers. So how are you approaching this slate? Is it shaping up to be a legitimate stars and scrub type experience for us tonight?
Yeah, I mean, if any night is stars and scrubs in the NBA, this is certainly the one. I mean, you called it. Like, we have all these stars out. Harden, that's huge. We saw Irving have a huge game after Harden dipped out there. And then with New Orleans, everyone is out. So we're going to be forced into rostering some guys we don't normally have in daily fantasy. But I think it's probably going to be a good idea there. So it should be an interesting slate here.
Double R says LaMarcus Aldridge minutes tonight with the super chat. Not enough. Would you agree? Not enough? Or do you think he's going to jump right into 30 minutes today?
It's a little bit hard to predict, I think, without having seen him play. But he it seemed like he was having a little bit of trouble getting ready for the game. So I'm looking at the season average of 25. If he starts, I think we could expect 20 plus, in which case he'd be a pretty good play. But I think it's more likely we see Jordan and Jeff Green get the starts here.
Yeah, my thing is Steve Nash said he's going to miss 2 to 4 games as he kind of gets reacclimated and in game shape. It's only been 2 games. So with that in mind, I don't really think that you're going to see him thrown back into the fire right away. So let's kick this one off. Philadelphia and Cleveland. We got about 52 minutes to get through 7 games. Then we'll toss it over to the Live Before Lock crew. Philadelphia 76ers were crushing, Alex. They won 10 of 11 games. Joel Embiid sidelined. He'll be back on Saturday, but he's out today. They'd been playing really well, and then they ran into just some really good teams towards the end of a West Coast road trip. Got beat up by the Clippers, lost handily, or lost at the hands of the Denver Nuggets, got beat up pretty bad there out in Denver. But now they've got a matchup against Cleveland, 10-point road favorites. The Cavs don't have Larry Nance. They don't have Jared Allen, so their starting front court is out. Even if Kevin Love plays, he's probably only getting, 10 to 15 minutes. So it is a really good spot for the Sixers, but they're on the end of a long road trip, and Ben Simmons just hasn't played well. So let's start with the 2 expensive guys, Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris, who has been asked to do a lot with Joel Embiid's sideline.
Yeah, I mean, if they're worn out, you don't see it in the Vegas line, I'll tell you that.
Oh, not at all.
10-point favorites actually seems a little bit high to me because I feel like the Sixers aren't really the same team without Embiid. They've had their ups and downs, but I guess some of the guys being out for Cleveland as well may be a factor in that.
I'm with you, though. I said in the deep dive today that I like if I'm taking one side of this, I'm taking 10 points with Cleveland at home.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what that closes at. But Philadelphia, they don't have any guys that are out today aside from Embiid, and the prices have kind of accounted for that already. So you're not going to find any crazy values here, but there are some guys that we can look at, particularly on FanDuel. I see Harris and Simmons are in that 8K range. They're pretty cheap. And then Dwight Howard got the start last game. But I think it was mostly the matchup with Jokic. Now that going up against Hartenstein, it'll be interesting to see who starts here. If Howard starts, I think he could be a pretty good play on FanDuel and a decent one on DraftKings. But who do you think they'll match up with? I guess it might be Love at center too. I'm not sure who the Cavs are even going to start.
Well, that's the thing too. I'm not necessarily sure about that either. Actually, I'll wait till we get to Cleveland to break down that front court, because I think there are a lot more moving parts there than people are assuming, although I do like Isaiah Hartenstein a lot for a lot of obvious reasons. But with Tobias Harris, you've got a player who is definitely – he's not as consistent as you'd like to see him for someone at his price point. I think 8,300 is fair. 8,700 on DraftKings is fine. But he's about 1.25 DraftKings points per minute with Joel Embiid off the floor, around the 20% assist rate, 12% rebounding rate. Usage rate is around 28%. So those are good numbers. Are they going to blow you away? No, but they're good numbers. And he's been doing a lot of work from in the paint recently, especially with Joel Embiid out of it. So I don't have an issue with Harris, but I don't know if I'm looking at any of these guys as just top priorities today, even though the matchup is perfectly fine. So are you prioritizing any Philly players?
I think, this is a slate where we have a lot of tremendous plays, and the Sixers today look like you can sprinkle in a few of them, but they're not going to stand out as some of the best of the slate.
I've just had a really tough time with Ben Simmons lately. Like I know his price keeps dropping, Alex, but his price keeps dropping because his production continues to drop as well. And at some point, we have to ask ourselves whether or not those historical numbers without Joel Embiid are what we want to be looking at, or should we be looking at what we've seen recently? And even if you take the season, they've been pretty decent. But it's this last stint with Joel Embiid out, it just seems like Ben Simmons is completely uninspired. Call me crazy, but I don't like what I've seen from him at all lately. Forget about defense, but from a DFS perspective, I don't like what I've seen from Ben Simmons very much.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, he hasn't won us a ton of money in fantasy recently, and this $8,900 price tag on DraftKings really stands out as maybe a little bit too much, unless another one of these key pieces for the Sixers were out. So I just don't see him as a great play. And I mean, a big factor is the matchup where Cleveland, they just play a little bit slow. The over-under for the game is only 213, which is about as low as they come right now.
All right, let's talk about Cleveland. And this is where it gets kind of interesting. I actually want to start with the front court. Isaiah Hartenstein is someone that we've had some bad experiences in the past with. Rostering him as chalk. He plays like 4 minutes for Houston. Things have been ugly. But he's a +1 per minute fantasy guy in the NBA. He's obviously limited opportunities in the NBA, but a +1 per minute player. Now, he played 26 minutes, just to set you up here, Alex. Played 26 minutes in his debut with Cleveland. He got in early foul trouble, like 2 fouls in the first minute of that game. And then he got a ton of run and blowout time in a 39-point loss to the Utah Jazz. So I'm not necessarily convinced that JB Bickerstaff runs him out again for big minutes, but it's also possible that on a rebuilding team, you might see him get 30 minutes if he isn't in foul trouble. And given that he is a good rebounder, he is a good shot blocker, he's a decent passer, facilitator for a big man, and not a great high usage player. But all of those things combined at his price point, especially playing close to the basket, makes it really hard to get away from him, even if I have some reservations about what his playing time might look like. What do you think about Hartenstein, assuming he's in the starting lineup?
Yeah, I think Hartenstein would be a good play. I mean, with this $3,700 price tag on DraftKings and 4K on FanDuel, I'm a little bit concerned about the long-term health history, where he had this trade canceled to the Detroit Pistons a few years back because apparently he just has some sort of like chronic issues. So I don't think they're going to go overboard with Hartenstein on the Cavs, if I had to guess. But he's the only big basically that's healthy. If Love plays, it could even work in Hartenstein's favor because, I mean, Love's only going to play like a dozen minutes. So then we're going to see Hartenstein get a lot of those extra minutes at center. So regardless of whether Hartenstein starts or not, I think he's a great play. The one thing that could mess up the play is if Philadelphia starts Mike Scott at center, like they really don't need Hartenstein's size. So it wouldn't be the craziest thing for the Cavs to switch to a smaller lineup, but it really isn't their MO, as we've seen.
So who do you think could start if it's not Hartenstein? Dean Wade?
Yeah, there really isn't anyone else aside from Kevin Love. So it's like, I don't think that would happen, but it is kind of a weird situation where they really need Hartenstein versus Dwight Howard, who could be coming off the bench. So I'm not going to sweat it too much if Hartenstein's coming off the bench. I think he's fine either way.
Do you have any interest in guys like Wade, who played, 34 minutes last time out? Taurean Prince, I know, is close to minimum salary, but just not a particularly great per minute guy. Not horrible this season, but for his career, he's kind of underwhelming. Do you get to any of those other guys tonight if Kevin Love is in or out?
If Love is in, I'm a little bit if Dean Wade starts, I think we can pencil him in for a good amount of minutes, but it is somewhat likely that he comes off the bench. So I'm waiting for that starting lineup. If Wade is in it, he's 4,600 on DraftKings. He's really not a $4,600 player, so I wouldn't be excited about it. And we got a ton of other value on the slate. I think I might just go elsewhere anyway.
Okay. What about the backcourt here with Colin Sexton? I saw earlier in the day he was getting decent ownership in our ownership, in your ownership projections today. I think rightfully so. He hasn't been the highest upside player, but what you get in Colin Sexton is a mid-range price point, 32% usage rate over the last month, 1.08 DraftKings points per minute, and a Sixers team that doesn't have Joel Embiid to protect the rim. And I mention that because Colin Sexton is driving to the rim at the eighth highest clip of any player in the league this season. He's done a good job of taking advantage of weak interior defense. And I think you have to at least consider that for Philadelphia. But what do you think about Colin Sexton's price point, and where are you going with him and Darius Garland tonight?
I think Sexton is he's looking like a decent play, but not anyone I'm going to be overly excited about. The minutes have really been good over the past two games. The last one, he didn't play much in the fourth because of a blowout, but he played about 35 minutes despite that. So that was really solid. I don't expect the usage or assists to change a ton with Jared Allen and Nance out because those aren't really ball handlers. So I'm just looking at the 7,200 price tag on DraftKings and 75 on FanDuel as maybe a little bit low, but nothing I'm going to go overboard with.
How about Garland?
Garland, he's a little bit lower priced, but I mean, the production is not as good. The minutes haven't been nearly as good as Sexton, so he's looking a little bit overpriced right now.
Anything else for Cleveland or Philadelphia?
We just got the news that Love will play, so I don't think that's a huge factor other than hurting some of the other Cleveland bigs.
Yeah, I can't imagine it is, right? When he returned for that first game after a long, 3-month or 2.5 month hiatus, he played 10 minutes. Then he played 2 minutes and got hurt again. So how much can you really give him? 10 to 12 minutes? And let's keep in mind also, this is on a team that's going absolutely nowhere very, very quickly.
Yeah, I agree. I think the most likely thing you'll see is Love will play the first half, about 12 minutes, and then he won't really play the second half. But that's not ideal for whoever's coming off the bench because you're thinking they'll play 12 minutes in the first half and not really more than that. So it does hurt the minutes upside there.
Kevin Love is starting too.
Nice.
He is in the starting lineup, and we'll pay attention to what the actual starting lineup looks like. I don't know if it's out yet. Did you see anything yet?
Let me see if News God's posted anything here. Nope, I haven't seen anything.
All right, so we'll keep an eye on that for sure. Let's move on to Washington and Detroit. Another big piece we're paying close attention to is the Bradley Beal news. Washington 3-point favorites against Detroit. Wizards play Lions. I almost said Tigers and then I said Lions. The Pistons playing their second of a back-to-back at home. 222.5 total. Bradley Beal questionable. And Russell Westbrook has just been on another planet lately, Alex. I mean, you look at this guy's numbers. He's averaging a triple-double on the season. He's averaging 1.71 DraftKings points per minute over his last 10 games. He's played 38 minutes or more in 8 of his last 10. Like these are things too that you could forget about whether Beal is in or out. Russell Westbrook has been, arguably the best fantasy producer throughout the month of March, and he warrants that price point. So him and Bradley Beal, break this down for all of us listening. What are you doing with Westbrook if Beal is in or out? And then what are you doing with Beal, who seems to be a bit underpriced according to a lot of people?
Yeah, I think Westbrook is probably a good player regardless of whether Beal plays or not. It's just like you said. I mean, he's averaging a triple-double. Like, that is insane. And the matchup versus Detroit, it should be easier for him to rack up the stats as well. So I don't see any reason to lay off Westbrook. But if Beal does play, he will be less of a priority, I'd say. At that 11K price tag on DraftKings and 11.3K on FanDuel, maybe we see a little bit fewer minutes than we've been seeing. And the rates will definitely come down a little bit.
All right. So is there anything for Washington outside of Westbrook and Beal that you look at as viable tonight? I mean, anywhere at any other position?
It's going to depend a lot on whether Beal plays or not. So if he doesn't play, we saw Jerome Robinson play monster minutes last game. He is still 3,500, so that would be maybe somewhere you could go to. And then the other guys who got minutes, Chandler Hutchinson kind of burned us last game because we were expecting him to get more minutes in his third game with the team. That didn't really happen, but the potential is there at that salary of 3,300 still. And then Denny Avdia is 4K. So I think if Beal is out, then Avdia looks like a solid value.
All right, so your Detroit Pistons had a great matchup against Washington. Now, yesterday, we saw Jeremy Grant kind of bounce back after a few ugly performances against a Blazers team that over the last month is ranked dead last in defensive rating. The Wizards are bottom 5 on the season, but also playing at the league's fastest pace by a pretty wide margin. So Jeremy Grant kind of stumbles into another good matchup here. And I look at a couple of things, Alex, and I think to myself, all right, he hasn't played that great, but who on this team is possibly going to keep him from being that 28% usage guy that we saw earlier in the season? Blake Griffin is gone. Derrick Rose is gone. I mean, you're contending for looks and usage with Sadiq Bey and Jackson and Saban Lee and Corey Joseph, who's actually played pretty well off the bench. So Hamidou Diallo out, Smith and Ellington are both questionable, to get that out of the way. But let's start with Jeremy Grant. His price seems pretty reasonable. Matchup seems great. Do we go back to the well on him for the second straight night?
Yeah, I think Grant looks pretty appealing, particularly on FanDuel at 6,600. I mean, that's just ridiculously low. The matchup, as you said, is good. I don't really know how much his stats will change based on who's in and out, though, because he does do most of his work without the basketball. So the fact that Josh Jackson is most likely starting this one as well, I'll take that back. It looks like Wayne Ellington is questionable. If he plays, he'll probably start. So I think Grant is a solid play, but this is a slate where we got a lot of great plays. So he might not make the cut for me on DraftKings a ton, but on FanDuel, I definitely fire him up.
Okay. Yeah, FanDuel in the 6K range is really nice. And it's just such a spectacular matchup that it's hard to get away from. What about the rest of this team? Do you find yourself getting to anyone not named Jeremy Grant? I saw Plumlee getting a little bit of ownership here, not a ton, but a little bit. And then the rest of this, guys, is just a scatter shot of random names that we've been mixing in and out of lineups for the past month.
Yeah, I think Plumlee is in play. I wouldn't get super excited because it looks like his minutes, they are prioritizing Isaiah Stewart a decent amount. So it really depends if who's having the better game there. And we got a lot of really great values today, so I don't know if I'm going to get to that mid-range play with Plumlee, but the points per dollar looks pretty solid.
Okay. Nothing else?
Well, if Dennis Smith Jr. plays, that's going to really take away from Saban Lee, who has been a pretty good fantasy option. If he's out, then I think if Lee starts again, he looks like a reasonable play, but his salary has been creeping up.
All right. Charlotte and Brooklyn. Before we do that, we've got an amazing promo going on. It's opening day of the MLB season. I'm assuming this is still going on, right? Yeah, it's got to be. We wouldn't run in. Okay, good. It's through the 9th of April. You want 9 days of Awesemo Plus MLB premium content, everything we have for MLB? Well, you got it for $9. That's it. $9, 9 days. You're basically getting a third of a month for $9 over at Awesemo by using the promo code STARTING9, STARTING, number 9. Don't spell out 9, the number 9, all one word. If you go to awesemo.com/promos, that gives you everything we have to include, right? Player projections, ownership projections, the top stack tool, lineup builder, premium Slack channel. It's an awesome community. And I always say, if you are deciding to sign up, right, make sure to take advantage of the premium Slack channel, because we got an awesome community of people that love DFS and sports betting and all of this stuff just as much as you do. If you're here, that means you love this shit, right? We got a Top Shot channel. We have everything. And if you don't want to join some of them, you don't have to. But there's something for everyone. Specifically, though, NBA, college basketball, college football, sports betting, baseball, football, everything we've got. Great community. And the premium office hours where you've got guys and pros like Alex and Steve Buzzard and Josh and Ben and Sean's on, all of them taking time out of their days to answer questions and help you better your game in a more intimate setting outside of just like a YouTube chat where, it gets messy in there pretty quickly. So use that promo code STARTING9. One more time, STARTING9 gets you everything on our site for MLB for $9 for 9 days. And if you're someone that decides, I want more than that, like give me NBA, give me football, give me all of that, right? Maybe bad time for football. But give me all of those sports, PGA, NASCAR, assuming NASCAR is still going on, MMA. I maybe even like to dabble in esports, League of Legends. We got you. Ownership, player projections, top stack tool, top golfer tool, top driver tools, everything created by this guy. I hope I'm pointing in the right direction. This guy, Alex Baker, not Jordan Klein. You can't see it anyway. All of that created by him, and he's won a ton of money doing it. So awesemo.com/join. If you want to check out everything, if you want to do the promo, $9 for 9 days for $9, go to awesemo.com/promos. Check it out today. All right, Charlotte and Brooklyn. Let's talk about the Charlotte Hornets. So without LaMelo Ball, we've seen a decent amount of ownership go into guys like Hayward and PJ Washington, who we will get to and excoriate in just a moment. Charlotte, 2-point dogs, 221 total against a very shorthanded Brooklyn team. I've got to throw this to you because I'm having such trouble with it, Alex, and maybe you can change my mind. I see the ownership on Washington, and I see that the price point has come down. But this man remarkably went 44 minutes without scoring a single point the other day. And now you look at his last 3 games, he's not even shooting, right? He's not getting to the line. He's got 0 usage. What makes us go back to him today when we've seen just such dismal production from him in recent games?
Well, I think he has some red flags, that's for sure, because we saw last game Bismack Biyombo and Cody Zeller played almost the entire game at center, and PJ Washington didn't really play at center that game. So that really will hurt his value going forward if that's the case. So that is one thing to look out for. Brooklyn is running out some big centers with DeAndre Jordan and Nick Claxton. So I think that could very well happen today. But PJ Washington, he is intriguing talent. We don't expect him to be the most consistent player in the world. It's just that today we got players that are really benefiting from injuries, and the Hornets today are getting a guy back in Malik Monk. So if anything, that is going to hurt the other Hornets, not help them.
Okay. Yeah, Malik Monk was probable last game. Nola just gave up a 2-run shot. Come on. Yeah, he had 84 pitches with 2 outs in the 7th. Looked like he was going 8 innings in his debut. Oh, tied game. He's going to lose the win here for sure. That sucks. PJ Washington, we talked about. Malik Monk, like I said, was probable last game, and then just out of nowhere was ruled out. So just at least pay attention to that. He's probable here. Curious to hear where you're at on somebody like Gordon Hayward, whose price has come down to 7,000 on FanDuel. And now that Harden's out, now that Kevin Durant's out, you might be looking at a spot where this game actually stays really competitive.
Yeah, I think Hayward is a reasonable option for sure. He, without LaMelo, should, he has been doing pretty well with being kind of the key guy on the team. So I think the minutes have been really good. He's averaging about 35 on the year. So I think I feel confident in Hayward, but he isn't getting that injury bump like a lot of other guys, particularly on the other side of this game.
Yeah. All right. Well, with Charlotte going into Brooklyn, 221 total. By the way, there's a lot of low totals today. If you look across the board, you've got a 219, a 218, a 213, a 213 again, and then a couple 221s. So there's really nothing. This is one of the highest totals on the slate, which isn't saying much. Outside of Hayward, you have Rozier, you have Graham. We talked Washington. Is there anybody else that stands out to you whatsoever for Charlotte tonight?
It's not really a team I'm looking at a ton, but the pricing on Hayward on FanDuel is pretty nice. And I just saw we got the news that Michael Carter-Williams isn't playing tonight, so that'll be interesting for Orlando. How will we break them down?
Okay. All right. Well, that's actually significant. We'll get to that game shortly. Let's close this one out first. Brooklyn Nets, no Harden, no Kevin Durant, no Blake Griffin. However, LaMarcus Aldridge will be playing today. So with Kyrie Irving, it's just so hard to get away from this, even if there's enough value on the slate to get to Irving and feel really confident about it. There's all season long, we've been saying, well, you don't want, it's going to suck for DFS because it's these big three all-stars, 3 of the 4 most preeminent players in the league. But most of the season, we have every game almost without them. So we got a decent amount of information on them this season. And while Irving's only played 223 minutes with both of these guys off the floor, he's averaging 1.61 DraftKings points per minute, 36% usage, 40% assists. And if you take Karis LeVert off the floor, those numbers go up even higher. So, Alex, he's in a spot to absolutely crush today against a middle-of-the-road Hornets team that plays at a middle-of-the-road pace.
Definitely, yeah. Irving is one of my favorite plays tonight because, last night says it all. He just had like 60 fantasy points, and he's 10K now. The thing is, we knew when Irving played with LeBron that he really took a hit to his fantasy value. The same has been true with Harden. So now that Harden's not playing tonight, this is one of the biggest superstars in the league for fantasy. So I think that Irving's a slam dunk tonight.
Okay. Yeah, absolute slam dunk. Now, once you get outside of Kyrie Irving, there aren't as many slam dunks. You start looking at guys like Bruce Brown, and then we mentioned LaMarcus Aldridge in that super chat earlier. Do me a favor, Alex, and break down how you see the rest of this team, the rest of this rotation playing out today, now that Harden's going to be watching this one from the sidelines or from home. I don't know where he's going to be.
Yeah, I think, we see plenty of games without Kyrie. It's probably the same thing, except Irving's playing the role instead of Harden. So probably seeing Bruce Brown get the start at point guard / shooting guard, and then Harris. What I'm thinking will happen today with some of the injuries is maybe Jeff Green gets the start at power forward. We've been seeing him come off the bench a little bit. And then DeAndre at center. What the starting lineup is won't matter a ton because obviously at the big spot, they have a lot of minutes spread between Jordan, Claxton, Aldridge, and Jeff Green. So that doesn't leave a lot for anyone else who would start. But if TLC picked up a spot start or something, it wouldn't be the craziest in the world, and he might be an intriguing play.
Okay. So do you want to wrap this one up and move on to Golden State, Miami, or do you have anyone else and any other thoughts on Charlotte or Brooklyn?
Bruce Brown's looking like a pretty good value on FanDuel in particular, so I'm not looking at him there.
Okay. Let's talk about Golden State and the Miami Heat. This is a weird game because on the Golden State side, you're not going to see really a ton of ownership on anyone here. Bear with me as I pay attention to some of this news, make sure we don't miss anything. Yeah, a little bit of Stephen Curry ownership on DraftKings. On FanDuel, you've got, I think, something similar. Yeah, Draymond Green and Steph are up there a little bit, maybe some James Wiseman, but just not a really popular team today. Do you see yourself potentially getting over the field on the Golden State Warriors tonight against the Heat in Miami?
Probably not. I mean, the Warriors are definitely taking a hit to their production with Steph back, so that's going to hurt the production of guys like Wiggins, Oubre, Green, and Wiseman a lot. And Miami is a really tough matchup, so I think that they're probably one of the teams to avoid tonight. Although Steph Curry, I mean, he can break a slate for sure. I'm just not sure this is the most likely time for him to do it.
So we got the same news that we got last game. Bradley Beal missed, that Jerome Robinson will remain in the starting lineup if Bradley Beal is out. Now, I'm not saying that means he's going to be out, but you know, it tells us that it's certainly a possibility, and he probably is not as close to probable as people would have hoped. So I don't know if that means anything to you, but at least we know that the starting lineup will remain the same if he's out. And we'll also get that news before lock because it's a 7:00 lock.
Yeah, that is funny that they announced the news in the exact same way as last time when he's out. But as you're saying, it will be tough to get an advantage there because everyone will have that before lock.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we will circle back if we need to. And obviously, you'll want to stick around for live before lock because, well, they're going to have all of the goods as news is breaking. The final hour leading up to lock, you get a lot of news oftentimes. So Greg Ehrenberg, Eric Lindquist got you on live before lock tonight. And anything that happens, just be sure to stick with us, and they'll make your life a whole lot easier leading up to 7:00. So, all right, let's go to the other side of this one. Where are we at? Miami. Jimmy Butler, topic of conversation here, definitely pulling some ownership, especially on FanDuel. Similarly priced to Kawhi Leonard, and we can get into that a little bit too. But no Goran Dragic are waiting on the Kendrick Nunn news, and a nice pace-up spot for Miami. How are you tackling this Heat team tonight?
So I think with Oladipo coming back, or I guess making his debut for the Heat, I should say, that's going to affect the production of pretty much everyone because he's a really high usage and assist guy. So that does take away from guys like Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. And I don't know if Goran Dragic being out is enough to compensate for that. But if Kendrick Nunn is out too, that will give some minutes upside to some other guys. So we'll have to see with the Nunn news. But right now, I'm not really feeling the Heat.
All right. Chris Thomason says Josh Hart or Bruce Brown with the super chat. It's got to be Josh Hart here for you, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Not even close.
Not even close because there's just so many minutes to go around on New Orleans, and then they're facing a really bad team in Orlando too. So it's not even like there's a huge pullout risk.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're still 4-point favorites despite losing three of their three top starters. So that tells you all you need to know. But it's also nice to know that this game could actually stay competitive. I mean, how shocked were you to see the Orlando Magic the other day? This was insanely surprising to me. The Orlando Magic go into the Staples Center and beat the Clippers. I don't care if they had some guys missing. Kawhi Leonard alone should have been able to beat them.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty ridiculous.
All right, let's talk about Orlando and New Orleans then. We've got 3 games to go here, about 20 minutes to make it happen. So the Atlanta Hawks, been a long day. Half a point, dogs, 221 total against San Antonio. John Collins is out. DeAndre Hunter, Lou Williams, questionable. But the big news is John Collins being out here. How much does that boost Clint Capella for you, Adam or Alex? Because we've looked at Clint Capella this season and his per minute production is actually insane. Like, he's been really good on a per minute basis. He has a career high rebound rate of like 26%, 20% usage rate, and a block rate up in a 6-7% range. He's had really good numbers. And he's also been playing a little bit more lately in terms of minutes over in his last game. The biggest issue has been, how many minutes do we get from Capella? Is there enough confidence for you today that John Collins being out will solidify the minutes for Clint Capella? Because, man, if they do, 7,700 feels like a really good price against the Spurs.
Definitely. I think Capella is a top play tonight for that reason, where with John Collins, they're kind of prioritizing three bigs, Collins, Capella, and Gallo. Now there's only two. So Capella, he's been seeing more minutes over the last 5 games to start with, so that could get even better. And his price tag really doesn't account for that. And the Spurs is a pretty good matchup for bigs too, because they get blocked more than average. So I'm definitely feeling some Capella tonight. And also kind of looking at Gallo, looking at what's going to happen there, because we saw in a few games where I think Capella was out, we saw Collins and Gallo get pretty good minutes. So I think that could definitely happen with Collins out.
My fault, guys. Skipped the Orlando-New Orleans game. Kind of an important one there. So we'll go back to that one. Let's just hit this game first, and then we'll go back. You're all here with us. And while you wait for that, hit that thumbs up again. Not even at 300. And what we got? About 2,000 people watching, 300 likes. Let's put in some work here, boys. Let's get that up to 500 as quickly as we can. All right, so we're Atlanta. We talked about Capella. I like Capella here quite a bit, especially at that $7,700 price point. I think the salaries begin to get a little bit strange once you compare them across sites, like with Trae Young and a few other guys. Bogdan Bogdanovic being another one, only $4,200 on FanDuel. That's kind of interesting as well, given that he's played arguably his best game of the year last time out, 37 minutes, 46 DraftKings points against the Phoenix Suns. What do you think outside of Capella we should be doing with the Hawks tonight?
Bogdanovic could be intriguing, particularly on FanDuel if Hunter is out. If Hunter is in, that just clogs up the wing rotation a little bit and makes performances like last game a little bit less likely. So then the other guy I'd be looking at is Trae Young. I mean, you guys don't need me to tell you Trae Young's a good basketball player. 9,400 on DraftKings is about the striking point for him, for me, and 8,700 on FanDuel is even better. So with Collins out, there should be a few more buckets to go around. So I think Trae Young is pretty solid.
Okay. Anything else for the Hawks?
Nope.
All right. San Antonio, pretty uninspiring team to look at here. Maybe you've got something that stands out to you that I'm missing, like DeMar or DeJounte Murray. Anybody for the Spurs that you're feeling today?
I'm kind of I'm looking at a few guys on the Spurs. I think Murray, he had a pretty solid game the last time. Or actually, no, I was hoping he would, and then it didn't happen. I got mixed up there. But the spot's still solid. I mean, Atlanta's a young team that's not great at defense, and Murray's a guy that does it all. So I think he's always a good option, as well as DeRozan. One guy that got a ton of minutes last game was Jakob Poeltl. And I mean, with Gorgie Jang out, I think that he could get more minutes with Drew Eubanks being kind of deprioritized by the Spurs. So I think Poeltl is solid. I don't mind any of the Spurs, to be honest.
Okay. Yes, already mentioned. Skipped the game accidentally. A little bit all over the place today, but that's why we got plenty of time to go back and do it all over again. Well aware of what's going on here sometimes. At least now I am. Orlando at New Orleans. Unless you have anything else from this one, we got plenty of time if there's anything else you want to hit on.
Oh, no, this game isn't super exciting, I'd say.
All right, so let's go back to the game that I skipped. Orlando at the New Orleans Pelicans. You've got the Orlando Magic, just an outright bad team. Okay, they were already bad when they decided to ship off everybody at the trade deadline. Now they won't even have Michael Carter Williams tonight. So things went from bad to worse. It might actually be from good to better if you're looking at the trajectory and what they're trying to accomplish in Orlando. So the last I looked, they were 4-point dogs. I can't imagine Michael Carter-Williams is going to swing that line all that much, but it doesn't matter anyway. So the Pelicans we're going to spend a ton of time on. They will be the most popular team for very good reason today. How much time do you want to spend on the Orlando Magic? And how much does this MCW news affect your playing tonight?
Well, I think Magic are kind of bereft of talent right now. But the biggest frustration is that everyone's playing like 24 minutes. So it is really tough to peg who's going to get enough minutes to be good in fantasy on a given night. With Carter Williams out, it might be a little bit easier because Jason Randall is really the only point guard left. But the only problem is he's just really bad in fantasy. So I can't really prioritize him. And then at center, they've been starting Khem Birch. So it's a little bit crowded there with Wendell Carter and Mo Bamba also playing mostly as center. So that makes it tough to get to the bigs. I just am not seeing a lot on Orlando.
Neither am I. And I don't even think we need to go any further. I'd rather spend our time on the New Orleans Pelicans. That makes a lot more sense to me. The New Orleans Pelicans are without Zion. They're without Lonzo. And Brandon Ingram is doubtful to play. So that means that you go from a team that had guys all questionable or not even on the injury report earlier today, looking at, oh yeah, Ingram's a solid enough option. This is a fine play, to now everybody's out. So you have Nickeil Alexander-Walker. You have Josh Hart. Both of them excellent plays. And the dreaded Eric Bledsoe, which is exactly where we have to start, Alex. Bledsoe has sucked, just outright awful from a DFS standpoint this season. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's been playing 30-plus minutes in games and finishing with 10, 15 fantasy points. You can't make it up. But now you take all of these guys off the floor, and you have to say, well, we've seen Bledsoe do it in the past. He can't be so washed in the past few months, become so washed that we can't get a decent game from him at a mid 5K price point.
Yeah, I think Bledsoe is a scary guy to go all in on, I think is what you're saying. And that's certainly understandable because he's a guy that he's like average usage, he's average assists. So really what you're looking at is the main facilitators on the Pelicans are out with Ingram and Ball and Williamson. So somebody's going to be dishing the ball. Basically, they have Bledsoe, they have Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Kira Lewis, who all can be that ball handler. And I think there's enough for all three to get enough playing time to be good in fantasy tonight. So I think I'll be going to those guys quite a bit.
Yeah, me too. And to be clear, I'm not saying Bledsoe's not washed. I'm saying Bledsoe can't be so washed that when you take the three best players off the team and put him up against the Orlando Magic, that he can't have a decent enough game. So, I mean, have you crunched lineups yet?
I haven't made my lineups yet, but I do see in the chat, Alan says, so washed. Swaggy says Bledsoe is skull face. Alan says Bledsoe trash bucket. And then Swaggy said Bledsoe is cooked. So I think I might go to Bledsoe even more because it sounds like you guys aren't going to be having him tonight.
Yeah, they seem to really have some ill feelings towards Bledsoe. You have to wonder how many of them have rostered him heavily earlier in the year, and he has just ruined and crushed their lives. But no, he's not very good anymore. But the same people that were saying this are the same ones that were like, oh, DeMarcus Cousins is washed. I don't care if he plays 30 minutes. He's not good. I don't care if he's not good or doesn't contribute to winning as long as he's out there and doing stuff. So, yeah, I think Bledsoe – like, do you think you'll be over the field or at least around the field on Bledsoe today?
Yeah, I think he's one of the best plays of the slate. I mean, he's 5,100 on DraftKings, 5,500 on FanDuel. So that's that price point where if someone is a really good value, you can just pretty much have them in any lineup. So I think Bledsoe, although, you know, I agree with the sentiment of the chat that he may not be as good as he once was. And thank you, Adine, for the super chat. He says, Bledsoe so washed he doesn't have to shower after games.
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
I think like, it's not like he's a guaranteed winner tonight, but this is about as solid a spot for him as you can get.
Yeah, and by the way, you're not paying $8K for a washed Bledsoe alongside Zion, Lonzo, and Ingram. I don't even know why I'm trying to convince you. I shouldn't have to convince you that $5,100 against Orlando when the rest of your team, or at least the good players, are injured, is a place to get to. So I'll stop. I'll let you make the decisions. That was definitely an interesting interaction in chat, and that's why I love you guys, because sometimes it gets wild in there. We got a couple super chats as well. Let me hit on these. Thomas Hundley says, thanks for the free projections on Awesemo.com today. Here's a beer on me. Cheers, guys. Thanks, brother. Sending it in euros, huh? Okay, good stuff. More for us. Alex, we don't only have free projections for NBA, but also for NHL today as well. So be sure to check that out. And the deep dive free every single day. Most comprehensive article you're going to find out there. Jeremy says, oh, God, got to play Bledsoe. Thank you for the super chat. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to, but he's cheap. And Ruben says, thoughts on a white pivot off of Bledsoe on FanDuel. Alex, I'll go to you.
Bledsoe's not the kind of guy you want to pivot off of, I'd say, because he's such a good value. If I was going to make any sort of move to avoid Bledsoe, I'd probably structure my lineup in a way where I just don't avoid that price range altogether. Maybe go to like all 4K guys and spend ups instead of going to that 5 or 6K guy.
It blows my mind that people look at Bledsoe in the same context as they would when you have Zion, Ingram, and Lonzo on the floor. It blows my mind, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, we see a lot of NBA teams when they roll out really bad rosters, they still produce, and we saw that with the Bucks the other night. So it's no stretch that a solid 30-minute-a-game guy like Bledsoe can have a good one here.
What do you think of Kira Lewis Jr.?
Kind of like him. I think he's a pretty high draft prospect this year. The Top Shot price seems to be outpacing the production, but the minutes should be open for him here. I don't think he's going to start, but if he did, it would be a pretty good bump for him as well. And his per minute stats have been good. He has a 20% assist percentage on the year, 18% usage, but that's going to go up with some of these guys out. So I think that he's going to be a solid per minute guy.
OG says top 3 Pelicans to play. Well, let's finish this team and then we'll give you our top 3 Pelicans to play right after we're done with them. Who would you say are your top 3 Pels? Or sorry, who would you say outside of the guys we've already mentioned are viable today? Anybody else on a team that's down so many top players that we need to mention?
The guys I'm looking at are Josh Hart, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and James Johnson. The one I feel most confident in is Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He's been getting crazy minutes recently, and he also can do a lot with the ball in his hands. They're going to really need that today. And then Josh Hart just is going to get huge minutes with all the wings and forwards out. So, or specifically Ingram and Williamson. He's already averaged 28 on the year. So I'm definitely expecting more in the 30s today. And then with James Johnson, I think they just need some power forwards to play here. And he's 3K. So I think it's worth a flyer. Although he hasn't really played for the Pelicans yet this year, so I wouldn't go overboard with that.
Okay. Let's move on, close this one out, turn it over to the Live Before Live crew. We got one game to go because earlier, if you didn't know, I skipped a game, and then we did Atlanta, San Antonio. Now we'll wrap it up with Denver and the Clippers. Before we do, though, an awesome promo going on right now over at Jock Market to christen the MLB season. It was Awesemo 20 as the promo code. Get you a $20 deposit bonus when you signed up and deposited. Now it's a $50 deposit bonus using the promo code Awesemo50, AWESEMO 50, all one word, $50 bonus on your first deposit. It's an exclusive offer only for our community at Awesemo, AWESEMO 50. If you're wondering what Jock Market is, you haven't heard of it before, I'm going to tell you. It is not a dating site for jocks and good-looking gentlemen. It is a DFS site mixed with the stock market, with the stock exchange, turning DFS, turning fantasy into a stock exchange where you don't have to wait till the end of the game to make money. Jock Market allows you to buy and sell shares of a player in real time for real money with guaranteed payouts for all shares at the end of each night. You have markets for basketball, baseball, hockey, and golf, and you can make real money every hour of the day, every minute, down to the second. You also have a very cool pregame IPO. For those of you that are involved in trading, you understand this, or in the market at all, a pregame IPO to pick up shares of your favorite player, then buy, sell, or hold based on the game or during the game based on your analysis. So if you haven't done so yet, download the app, Jock Market, and use the promo code Awesemo50 for a $50 deposit on your first deposit when you sign up. All right, we got 5 minutes to go. Let's knock this out, Alex. We got Denver and we got the LA Clippers. Denver Nuggets, 2-point favorites, 219 total. They've been playing pretty solid basketball right now, and they're going up against the skeleton crew of a Clippers team that we'll close this show out with. But first, let's cruise through this Nuggets team. Is there anything you like?
Well, I think the Clippers are one of the tougher matchups. Paul George being out does help, but I'm not sure that with a slate that's so stacked with really good plays, that's going to be enough to get me on the Nuggets here.
Okay, so just nothing.
Yeah, I guess Jokic, he's got to be in consideration, but I'm a little bit worried about Aaron Gordon kind of taking some of his ball handling duties away, because Aaron Gordon has been kind of playing more of a point guard role with his time in Orlando. So I do see that as a threat to maybe Jokic stats enough to get me down on him a little bit.
All right. Devin RJJ says, fading Bledsoe for Russ and Kyrie, double punting at power forward with Johnson and Hartenstein. Appreciate all you guys, all the shows you guys provide daily. We appreciate the super chat. By the way, I'm assuming you're referring to FanDuel, where you have to fade one of them in order to get to the other two. That's why Bledsoe is a much better play on DraftKings than he is on FanDuel, just to be clear. And that's why his ownership is quite a bit higher, because if you wanted to, you can play Kyrie, you can play Westbrook, and you can play Bledsoe in the same lineup if you so choose. So with the Clippers, you have no Paul George, no Serge Ibaka, no Beverly, no Rajon Rondo, and Marcus Morris is questionable. Is Kawhi Leonard a top option for you tonight?
Yeah, I think he is. And the price seems to not have accounted for Paul George being away from the team at 9,300 on DraftKings and 96 on FanDuel. The matchup versus the Nuggets, I would have to say, is a negative, but Paul George being out more than compensates for that. The other piece of news here that I'm really looking at is Marcus Morris being questionable because he didn't play last game. I think it is a really big question mark whether he plays tonight or not. And that's not going to affect Kawhi that much, but it will affect the other members of the Clippers who, with Morris out, there's just going to be a ton of minutes to go around. Or sorry, if he is out.
Yeah, by the way, if you see those badges next to the name in YouTube chat, you can get one of them and a lot cooler ones, and use some gnarly emojis too. You got some of Alex, you got one of myself, you got Dr. Ben, and a bunch of other really cool stuff that when you join and become a member here on the YouTube channel, I think it's like $2.99. And it doesn't matter if you do or don't. I just think it's cool and a very neat community feel, which we want to have here, right? This is a community. We win, we lose together. There you go. Look, you see them popping up right now all over the place. If you see it, wonder what it is, and decide you want to join, well, hop on in. Hit that join right below our faces here next to that subscribe button, which should already say subscribed. If it doesn't, remedy that trouble. And we're 27 likes away from 500. I knew you guys would get us. I mean, I know you're not going to leave me hanging at 473. So just throwing it out there. I know we will get there by the time I am done saying all of this right now and asking Alex about Luke Kennard and the rest of these value options that have done very well for us over the past couple of days with Paul George out.
Yeah, Luke Kennard played huge minutes last game. So did Batum, stepping in the starting lineup for Morris, and Terrence Mann, everyone's been raving about as well. they have gotten their pricing increased a sizable amount to the point where between at 5K, I'm pretty sure anyone could be out and he wouldn't really pop at that price. And man, at 5,200, I'm kind of feeling the same way. The guys, so I guess what I'm kind of coming to the conclusion of is that maybe Morris being out doesn't matter a ton because the other guys have already gotten the price bump preemptively.
Would you say you have any priority top options for the Clippers today?
I think Kawhi is a really solid option, especially on today's slate where the value is so easy to come by. And then Kennard's interesting, but overshadowed by some of the Pelicans guys. And then Morris, if he plays, I really like him. That's going to be really tough because your late swap options are going to be really limited if he sits.
What do you got going on over there, man?
Oh, I changed my Slack notifications so that like it doesn't sound like everyone else's because sometimes you hear them on the shows and I always got confused. So it's just like a different sound.
They're trying to fake people out, make them think it's Jordan or something, right? Let's wrap it up with this. We got 2 super chats. By the way, well over 500. Appreciate you guys. Always. It's an awesome community here. Who is your highest owned play under 15% total ownership? I don't know if you can really give the answer to that right now, but is there a guy that isn't particularly high owned that you might like today?
Damn, that's a good question. So I'm kind of pulling up the ownership. Morris stands out as someone I think should be above 15% if he plays, but that's a gamble, so I probably wouldn't count on that. Honestly, there's no one under 15% that I love, so I'll probably just kind of sprinkle those guys in and then focus on some of my favorite plays that are chalky.
All right. Yeah, Colin Sexton's right around that mark on DraftKings. I think he's a fine play. Could go off against the Joel Embiid, the Sixers team. And last one, just very quickly, thank you for the super chat from OGs. Is James Johnson a sneaky play or no? Yes or no, Alex?
I think he's overowned because I'm seeing his ownership come in at 42%. This is a guy that I don't think he's played yet for New Orleans, unless I'm seeing this wrong. Let me just double check that because it does seem important. So I think there's a big logical leap you have to make to get to James Johnson, where you have to assume Zion being out leads to them going with Johnson for a good amount of minutes. And that's not something I really want on my night to hang around. So I think that might be a fade for me.
All right. Well, that'll do it. Stick around. Greg and Eric coming up next. I'll let them give you the news. We just got the Cavs starting lineup in one of our favorite plays today. Will not be in it. They'll tell you how to operate and make that work tonight and how to go about all of it on the Live Before Lock show coming up right now. See you guys later.
Good show, guys. Thanks a lot.
Yo, hello. Deep exhale. Yes, sir. Yep. It is the Awesemo NBA Live Before Lock show. We are sponsored by Jock Market as per usual on Thursday, which you know what that means. not only are Eric and I going to be talking about FanDuel and DraftKings for the next hour, we're going to be going 30 minutes after lock, talk about the jock market slate, some of the IPO pricing, some of the players we're bidding on, likely getting outbid by people in the YouTube chat, the usual Thursday night. So Eric, how are we doing? How are you enjoying MLB opening day?
Yeah, it's been fun. Hopefully, the Twins just went to the bottom of the ninth here. They looked pretty darn good, other than Donaldson getting hurt right off the bat. I had one entry in the big 444 on FanDuel that I won a ticket for, and have Donaldson right off the bat get pulled out of the game was unfun. So pretty tilting there. Trying to be a homer a little bit and make sure I had Twins exposure in that lineup. But Texas came through here, and so hopefully cash that and cruise on into NBA with a little profit already today.
Yeah, and guys, if you are looking to get jump into MLB DFS, we do have a promo code going on. If you use the promo code starting9, that is starting the 9 as in the numeral 9, for only $9, you get access to Awesemo Plus for MLB for the next 9 days of the season. That has everything we have to offer from MLB DFS, top stacks, lineup builder, premium Slack channel, player projections, ownership projections, all of that. So definitely go check that out. That is the promo code starting9, and that is the number 9. So yeah, I've been having an okay start to baseball. I think something that really helped me is my on DraftKings, my most common pitching combination was Tyler Glasnow and Sandy Alcantara, and both of them are pitching well, and basically all the pitchers who were chalk kind of sucked today. And I was on pitchers that didn't suck, so that kind of helps. That and the Royals are my second highest stack on the slate, and they're going well. So overall awesome. a pretty decent start to the baseball season, but still a lot could change in the rest of the slate. So I'll definitely be keeping my eye on that as we go along here. Talking about the basketball slate now, Eric, I think where we have to start is with all this New Orleans Pelicans news. Obviously not new to anybody at this point, but ruled out is basically everybody. And the reason that this is important to me is this is the ultimate time for me to either troll other people about whatever happens with Eric Bledsoe today. Me, the lone Eric Bledsoe truther left in the world too. By the way, here's my official stance on Eric Bledsoe. I don't think he's the greatest player in the world. I think he's not quite the player now that he was a couple years ago, but for a lot of years, I felt he was an underrated regular season player who just kind of sucked in the postseason. For a long time, he was a top 10, top 8 perimeter defender in the NBA. And now he's in a situation today where a slightly washed version of Eric Bledsoe is going to have to do a little bit of everything for the New Orleans Pelicans because Zion Williamson is out. Lonzo Ball is out. Brandon Ingram is doubtful. So now we're just in a situation, all the usage in the world available on the Pelicans, all the playing time available. And by the way, matchup against the Orlando Magic, who are also in kind of a similar situation with everybody out. Michael Carter-Williams was recently ruled out. He's dealing with an illness. So this is about as easy of a matchup as we could possibly get for Eric Bledsoe. I'm going to be on him today. But Eric, who are the New Orleans players that you're targeting most heavily? And also, how many Pelicans is too many?
Why did you do that? You had to do it. You had to throw it in there. I was going to say, we were both just dreading. How many Pelicans is too many Pelicans? 8, because then you probably cheated. It's tough to get 8 in a lineup, but you can have a lot of Pelicans exposure, and I'm not worried about anybody. I mean, the most expensive guy over on FanDuel is $5,800 Nickeil Alexander-Walker. On DraftKings, the most expensive guy is a $6,100 Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So these guys are just so cheap for such a good matchup. Another bad team on the other side. Josh Hart, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Steven Adams is kind of not the priority for me because he's at the center position. I think that there's so many different good center plays. So if I'm trying to get off of one of the chalkier dudes up top, I think he's probably one of them. I don't think he's really getting the ownership anyway in that direction. I don't think anybody expects Steven Adams to have all the usage in the world, but Eric Bledsoe's 5,100 on DraftKings, 5,500 on FanDuel. How do you get away from jamming that in this spot? I just don't get it. And so we just have one of those slates where I think I try to get away from getting too many uniques going in my lineup. I think that this is a very condensed kind of slate. I think I'm going to probably lock in kind of like a minimum exposure number that I would want on each one. I'm not going to be capping anybody. I mean, I'm just going to get an unbelievable amount of these guys. I think the real question comes down to between Kira Lewis Jr., Wes Iwundu, who I don't really like at all, but James Johnson, who's garnering 22% ownership over on FanDuel and makes, I think, a little bit of sense over there. And then it's the flat 3K on DraftKings, where we actually have a 25.1% boom percentage on him. What do you kind of think of those guys?
Yeah, so Here's something else I think is interesting, and also somebody in the chat just asked what I think of James Johnson. So here are the 4 Pelicans players that I'm prioritizing. And by the way, there's nobody this team is really suiting up that I don't have in play for me other than Steven Adams, just because I don't think he gets a monumental boost with these guys out, nor do I think his playing time is going up. But the players I have the most exposure to on DraftKings, and by the way, these are all guys that I think that if you're playing cash tonight, play these 4 Pelicans in DraftKings cash: Eric Bledsoe, James Johnson, Josh Hart, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Those are my 4 priority plays. I think you're making a mistake if you don't play those guys in cash. James Johnson, the flat minimum on DraftKings, I expect he's going to end up starting for them tonight. So to me, I think, by the way, solid picks. Thanks for the super chat. He did just say you can get away from Bledsoe by clicking the X, which, yeah, that is true. That is how you get away from Eric Bledsoe. But not the way that I'm going to be going about it. He's in the vast majority of my lineups today. But yeah, those are the guys I'm really prioritizing. Like I said, just to read those off again: NAW, Eric Bledsoe, James Johnson, Josh Hart. And it's really hard to even figure out, like, if you take I don't know, did you look at the on-off court numbers for the Pelicans with these guys off?
I mean, it was so hard. You're getting like 50 minutes for each of them. Is that kind of what you're looking at, or is it just just cluster?
Oh, it's not even. So Eric Bledsoe this year with Ingram, Lonzo, and Zion off the court has played 7.5 minutes. So I looked at that and I was, if I want to really make it biased in my favor, though, in those 7.5 minutes, he is scoring 77 DraftKings points per 36 minutes. So there we go. There's the baseline. For
I just kind of assumed that there were like 0 minutes. Zion, Ingram, JJ Redick, who else? Everybody on planet Earth, Lonzo Ball, all these guys that have either been shipped off elsewhere, or obviously your 3 core guys that are all out. Like, I assumed there were like 0 minutes, so I never plugged it in.
Yeah, that is also what I assumed, but I just for the content and the quality of the show, I was like, let's look this up just to see what it is. And once I saw that Eric Bledsoe scored 77 DraftKings points per 36 minutes, and those 7 minutes for those guys off the court, I was like, oh, this is something. I need this confirmation bias to bring up on the show in my favor. I know that this is going to be, Eric Bledsoe is either going to go off and everybody's going to say, well, everybody knew that Eric Bledsoe was going to go off, or Eric Bledsoe is going to have a bad game and I'm just going to get trolled for it. So I view this Eric Bledsoe situation as just a perfect lose-lose for me, which is, those are the situations I always want to set myself up. And I want to be in a lose-lose. And that's really where I am with Bledsoe today. Everybody's going to play him. If he doesn't do well, everybody's going to blame me. If he goes well, then everybody's going to say, yeah, well, everybody played him. On the other side of the game now for Orlando, and then we'll just go position by position, but now that we know that Michael Carter-Williams is out, just kind of late breaking news, he's been ruled out with an illness. Given how easy of a matchup this is against New Orleans, presumably with everybody out, is there anybody on the Orlando side of the game that you're looking to play either for stacking purposes or just because it's an easier matchup than it appears on paper?
I mean, Chesson Randle's really the only guy I think that I'm really going to like give a big increase to in any kind of sizable way. I mean, I've got him for 29 minutes here at the moment. All these other pieces, I want to like go on the other side of it because I do have a lot of this game already, obviously on the New Orleans side. But I mean, how do you go about playing all these guys who are going to be playing 25 to 28 minutes between Porter, Ennis, Ross, Carter, Birch, Bacon? It just feels like a wash up and down this lineup. And I think one will pop somewhere on FanDuel. Like, they're all kind of priced appropriately, even for that situation. Like, MCW does, taking him off the court affect a lot of these guys. But outside of Randle, I'm really not getting to as much as what I was anticipating from this news.
Yeah, and I see some people in the chat are bringing up Terrence Ross right now. Here's what's hard about Terrence Ross. He came off the bench last game, and he didn't really play all that much. And if we found out that Terrence Ross was going to start and play, like 36, 38 minutes, and be like, oh, this is going to be a guy who has just a ridiculous amount of usage. But he came off the bench last game and played 26 minutes. So I can't expect that he's going to play a massive role when he missed games from. So on March 3rd, Terrence Ross got hurt. He returned on February 14th, March 14th,
Island game.
Got hurt again. Then he didn't return until March 30th. He played 26 minutes in that game. So I just look at that. It's hard for me to think that Terrence Ross starts and plays, 34 to 36 minutes. He's priced way up on both FanDuel and DraftKings. So unless we hear something different about Terrence Ross, I can't prioritize him. And I think this rotation is going to be fairly deep with a bunch of guys playing in the neighborhood of 24 to 28 minutes. So I don't have any of them in my player pool right now. And I kind of feel fine with that because there's so much value on the slate. This is just setting up to be a really strong stars and scrubs night. So Do you feel any differently about that? I know you said you had Chasson Randall for 29 minutes, but does that bring you to any real significant amount of exposure to him, or even then not really?
No, it really on FanDuel, I mean, what do I need the salary for? That's the other part of this entire equation is that, like, congratulations, Michael Carter Williams out, but there's going to be guys who get a little bit of a bump. I think Chasson will get a little bit of a bump on both sites, but do I really want to go there when I can go to 3K or can go to some of these other directions, go completely stars and scrubs with Kyrie, get all the exposure I want and plug in those guys as my value pieces? I think the answer is no.
All right. And then there is one other piece of news that came out just as we were starting that I think we should hit on. Did you see the Cavs starting lineup by chance?
I did not. I just saw the Raul Neto is available. That was the only piece I saw.
Okay. A little less significant. The least significant part of the Wizards news we're waiting on. Bradley Beal still questionable play, expected to be a game time decision. We're going to know before the show ends. That game locks right at 7. But the Cavaliers starting lineup, which, by the way, does not include Isaiah Hartenstein, the starting lineup, looking for what News God had posted. Here it is. Cavs starters today: Sexton, Garland, Okoro, Dean Wade, and Kevin Love. So Kevin Love is active today. He's missed an extended period of time. Kevin Love, I doubt he's going to play more than like 10 or 12 minutes. But I think it's still fairly significant that Hartenstein is not starting. So he was going to be a guy who was a core play for me. I'm certainly still going to get exposure to him, but I'm going to be giving him a few less minutes now. And that's going to probably make him go from a guy who's in like half my lineups to somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30%. So with you getting news now that Hartenstein isn't starting, how does that change his outlook for you?
Let me plug it in. He's still cheap. And he's still, I mean, that's the one positive that you could take out of it. But God, this kind of kills him a little bit. Even, I mean, what are we going to get out of Kevin Love? 12 minutes, like 12, 14 minutes. That's kind of what the expectation is. That's going to be directly affecting. It's almost like a 1-for-1 on Hartenstein that's cutting into all of the time we saw in Utah. That first game, he ended up playing 26 minutes, where he only went 2 for 8 and just kind of got there off of rebounds and assists. I got to expect that that's going to plummet now in this spot. Let's see, I'm revamping it. I probably am going down to 20 minutes. I'm not going to get very much now that I'm looking at it and plugging in the numbers. I find it very difficult to want to go to him as opposed to even like Hernan Gomez. I would rather go that direction, I think, at this point in time, where I think there's just a little bit more upside, and he's not 3K. Like Hartenstein's still 3,700 on DK, which is the other part of that.
Yeah, and I'm just updating the minutes here, and then I'm going to rerun lineups to see where I get. Not that any of this really matters, because once Bradley Beal gets ruled in or out, then everything is going to end up changing. But Hartenstein with the latest minutes, running a crunch right now, it looks like I'm going to have him somewhere in between 25 and 30%. I'm afraid to totally get off him just because the Kevin Love news, like, yes, he's starting. And like we said, he's probably going to play somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 12 minutes. Those minutes are definitely going to come from Hartenstein. But still, the Cavs are terrible. If they're going to get crushed in this game, Hartenstein could just play all of garbage time against backups like he did last game. So I'm afraid to get to none of him. Just because I still think the upside is pretty significant. He's a really good points per minute fantasy producer. Last game was overall a tough matchup against Utah. He got into foul trouble, only played 26 minutes, and scored 35 fantasy points in those minutes. So even in 22, 23 minutes, that could be enough for Hartenstein to get to 30 DraftKings points. So that's enough for him to be in about a quarter of my lineup. So that is where I'm standing with him. And then Jordan had sent me a super chat to answer. Here it is. From Jeremy Savage, Capella or Wiseman, which player warrants more FanDuel exposure? That is a pretty easy Clint Capella for me.
Yep, same.
So Clint Capella with him, and we'll talk more about the center position later, but basically the situation here, no John Collins. John Collins expected to miss at least a week, and Capella's minutes, they weren't really going down like in a massive way, but we weren't seeing huge minutes from Clint Capella. He's kind of hovering around 28 to 30 minutes, a lot more small ball lineups being played by the Hawks ever since they started to get a little bit healthier on the wing with guys like DeAndre Hunter back, Gallinari, Bogdanovich. But now that there is no John Collins and it's going to be Clint Capella playing as many center minutes as he can handle, fairly positive matchup against the Spurs. So Clint Capella to me now becomes definitely one of the top center options on both FanDuel and DraftKings.
Yeah, agreed. I I find it very difficult that that's not like a spot you want to have your salary go to work. So we got to find some of these spend ups too. And Clint Capella with no John Collins, he's already a walking double with him around. Also, we just got some news, so let it be known Bradley Beal is out.
Okay, there we go.
So here we go. That's another stud.
There we go. So now here's an interesting comparison point. We're all bumping up Russell Westbrook now. We've all already bumped up Kyrie Irving. I think in cash games, we want to play both of them. If it's a 1v1 situation, you're deciding between Kyrie Irving or Russell Westbrook, who would you pick?
I mean, they're both are going to be in pretty much. I'm not even going to answer that. The answer is both. Both are going to be in just about every lineup that I make, and there's really no way around it. Where are we going to put our salary to work? Like, for me, the question really becomes like, how much Jokic would you want to get to in some spots? Because I know that Aaron Gordon gets inserted there, that they've been in a lot of blowouts of late, and Jokic hasn't been the same Jokic that we've had for the last 2 games with Aaron Gordon there. But like, he would be really the only other guy that you're like going really, really up for. Like, what would your exposure be to him? And would that cut into your Westbrook Kyrie numbers? Like, for me, that's kind of the big question that I have, because where else am I going to find ceilings at? Like, we have all of these guys at 4K, 5K that are phenomenal plays from New Orleans, a couple down there in the 3K range. But now Westbrook, Jokic, Kyrie, like between those 3, they just stand out. And I didn't even bring up Kawhi. Like, how are we prioritizing him in the entire landscape with Paul George out? Like, normally that's been a plug and play, and it hasn't been as effective the last 2 times out. 48.8 on FanDuel, 41.5, but it's still Kawhi without Paul George. And I think trying to figure out how to distribute between those 4 is going to be kind of a big part of what I'm doing here for the next 39 minutes. Because I think Westbrook is like clearly, I think the highest raw projection guy now on this slate. Kyrie up there, probably in number 2. But how much Jokic and Kawhi do you think you can get to now with this news?
Yeah, I'm about to update my lineups and run them again. Once I said 3 minutes ago, I was rerunning it for the Hartenstein news with the Cavs starting lineups. Like, this isn't going to matter. And then I didn't realize how quickly it was going to not matter. Like, I thought it wouldn't matter for another 25 minutes.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it wasn't going to matter 3 minutes later.
Instantly.
But yeah. So guys, we have 39 minutes until lock. Please like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you guys go out and subscribe, I will give out the ownership to all the Pelicans guys, and then also Russell Westbrook and Kyrie Irving. And then from there, we could maybe make some decisions on whether we're going to be above or below the field on those guys. My gut feelings, this is going to be a really chalky slate for me. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be uber chalky. I'm just going to play. Like, to me, this seems like such an obvious slate. And I know a lot of people are going to do it. I'm just going to do it more than everybody else. I'm going to play the Pelicans guys. I'm going to play Westbrook. I'm going to play Kyrie Irving, Jokic, Kawhi. And I'm just going to be overweight to the field on a lot of these chalk plays. And I don't really see a way around it, because it's hard for me to envision a way that these really cheap Pelicans guys don't succeed. It's hard for me to see. And then once I have those guys in, I have to pay up somewhere. And we just have these great pay up options in really strong spots with other stars out. So yeah, give me all of the chalk tonight.
Yeah, this is not a set a max exposure per lineup kind of night. This is not a set a limit on how much ownership you're going to have in your lineup. Like, there's a reason that these plays are valued the way they are. It's because they're exponentially better than the others. And now somebody like Russell Westbrook, what's his floor in this spot against Detroit? Like, it's so outrageous that it's impossible for me to envision a lot of these guys in the 7-8K range having the ceiling to even match his floor now, which is kind of where this whole conversation comes down to. Like, at what point would you want to fade him? Like 90%, maybe? Like, it would have to be a crazy number because of the value that we have inserted. So the boom bust tool, I do like how Adam talks a lot about how you have to talk about it relative to the other plays in the range. Well, there's no other plays in Russell Westbrook and Kyrie Irving's range. So like, what are we doing if we're not playing them? Like, what are you doing? You're doing ludicrous things.
And the other thing too is that if you are playing the Pelicans value, which I think is by far the best value on the slate, you have extra salary to spend up for. And there's only 2 guys, there's only 2 point guards to pay up for. There's Jokic to pay up for. There's only so many studs on this slate. So yeah, I think I'm cornered into playing this way. I don't think that there's an optimal contrarian option to take. You want to go play mid-range? Fine, go ahead and be my guest. But I think there's such a strong opportunity cost to that. So I'm eating the chalk tonight. I'm going to see what the latest ownership update is. Like I said, if you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel, give us some likes here. I'm going to be reading off some of these ownerships once we get the latest update. It's Not quite updated for the Wizards news yet, but in the meantime, let's read off some of these super chats here. Corey Randall, don't laugh at me. I'll try not to, but I'm liking Robin Lopez as a cheap center play on DraftKings. I'm not outwardly laughing at you, but I promise I'm laughing on the inside. Here's the I chuckled a little bit. I shouldn't have. That was part of the super chat. I'm not allowed to. This is the
Hey, thank you so much for your support. We support you by telling you not to do what you're planning on doing. Just do the opposite.
So think about the opportunity cost of rostering Robin Lopez, who is at 3,800 on DraftKings. By the way, not even all that cheap relative to normal Robin Lopez games. Let's bring up Robin Lopez really quick. Somebody who I haven't looked at all on this slate for good reason. There was no reason to look at Robin Lopez and still. And so, by the way, Goran Dragic was just ruled out also. So that's something else we could talk about in a second.
All right. Oh my God, the Twins blew that lead. It's 5-5. Are you kidding me? What happened? I turned off the game at 2:45, so I got ready for this thing, and oh my God, really? That's going to happen to me?
All right, Robin Lopez.
We're back. No tilting.
That was fine. I was waiting for Robin Lopez's numbers to load here anyway.
Oh, it's okay.
Robin Lopez scored 30 DraftKings points last game. So I'm guessing the reason you want to play Robin Lopez is because of what he did the last game. Because before that, to find a game where he scored over 25 DraftKings points, you'd have to go back to February 20th. To find the game where he scored over 25 DraftKings points before that, you would have to go to January 11th. So he has these games once in a while, but it's literally once a month that you get like a serviceable game out of Robin Lopez. And given how much value there is on this slate, I don't even know that 25 fantasy points from Robin Lopez is going to be optimal on this slate anyway. So the absolute ceiling for him is probably not great for this night anyway. So Corey Randall, please, I know you didn't want us to laugh at you, so just don't. Just
don't ask about Robin Lopez.
Yeah. Which, by the way, we got another super chat here from Miami Mike, who says, please don't play Robin Lopez. So there we go. We have one guy spend his money telling us to not laugh at him for playing Robin Lopez. Somebody else spending money saying, don't play Robin Lopez.
This is a special community we have here at Awesemo.com. Special. Love it.
And then let me scroll through. Okay, here we go. Super chat from Matthew Danto. Hey now, how will Neto or Robinson now that Beal is out on DK? By the way, I don't know if that was a Howard Stern reference, but I read it as a hey now as if it was a Howard Stern reference.
I got the song. Hey now, don't.
That's not the Howard Stern reference though.
I know it isn't, but that's what I heard when you said it.
All right, we all heard different things.
There we go. We heard different things. Hey, different strokes for different folks. Let it be known.
All right. So anyway, we do know, I'm pretty sure there was news out earlier. I'm just double checking. Jerome Robinson will start again tonight. His price point is now up to Jerome Robinson, 3,500 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, Jerome Robinson. Do you know the price off the top of your head? If not, I'm looking it up.
Yeah, 3,900 on FanDuel.
3,900.
I thought you were going to just say it there. I was doing something.
Yeah, no big deal. So I think that given the price on him, I think that he's a higher priority than Raul Neto. But to be honest, I don't think either of them are really all that high of priorities. Like Jerome Robinson has been a very important piece for me the last few slates without Bradley Beal. But the difference was there was not this crazy amount of value on other plays. And also Jerome Robinson, that extra $500, $400 cheaper he was, that made a difference for me. So I'm not going to fade Jerome Robinson, but he's probably somebody who's going to end up in something, like 5 to 10% of my lineups, just given all of the Pelicans value. So addressing that question, who would you rather roster, Jerome Robinson or Raul Neto? To me, I don't think either of them are priorities, but what is it for you?
If I had to take one, I'm going to take Jerome Robinson because I think you have like a surplus of minutes. Neto's been more effective in some spots, but also coming off of an injury. I think, I don't know who it was that said the other day, but they were talking about how injuries, you just kind of like assume that they're good to go. Well, I assume they're good to go, but I don't always assume that they're going to get the same minutes workload that they got in a situation where they're healthy. So I think that can cut in a little bit for him. Jerome Robinson starting, I'm just going to go that direction if I'm going to get to any of it, but it's going to be very marginal what I do get to, especially on FanDuel, where like, why would you want to use a point guard spot on him?
Yeah, and the other thing too is, so with Jerome Robinson starting and Raul Neto coming off the bench, Neto didn't play last game. Neto was out, and that's gonna take away from Jerome Robinson's minutes. And I assume it's going to be some sort of split at the point guard position where It's probably going to be, like Jerome Robinson plays 26 minutes, Neto plays 22. Maybe there's a little wiggle room where they play 28 and 24 because there's a little bit more playing time where both of them are on the court together. But Chandler Hutchinson, who was like a crazy chalk play the other day, he's still going to be in the rotation playing, somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 minutes. So there's a bunch of guys still that are there that are, bad NBA players, bad fantasy producers that are going to get playing time. And still, like we've talked about, I think everything has to be viewed within the lens of what is the opportunity cost of rostering these guys compared to some of the Pelicans plays. And to me, if you're playing Jerome Robinson, that's probably going to come at the expense of some Eric Bledsoe exposure. Maybe a good thing for other people, not for me. It's going to come at the expense of Nickeil Alexander-Walker exposure. And I'd rather get to those guys than Jerome Robinson, especially with Howell Neto and him likely splitting point guard minutes. So to me, I don't think either of them are priority plays. All right. Double R, thank you for the super chat. Is Trae Young a pivot off of Kyrie tonight?
I mean, this is what you're talking about, like where it's what are the other guys in the price range? I mean, Alex right now has him for nearly, like Kyrie's projected. His median projection is 10 points higher than Trae Young. It's going to be very difficult for the opportunity. And I don't think Trae Young is going to go like completely unowned. We've got him for double-digit ownership here at the moment. So I think for me, I would just much rather go way over on Kyrie and let, like, I'm sure I'll get a little Trae Young here over the course of 170 lineups, but it's not going to be anything substantial.
All right. Still no ownership projection update. When we get there, guys, I will definitely read those off. Just don't have the information in front of me yet, but it is something that is on my mind because I want it for my own personal information.
Well,
also.
I'm also saying a Trae Young on DraftKings. That's kind of where I was citing that. Trae Young is 8,700 over on FanDuel. That's a nice number. You should be getting to some there. It's a little bit different, but he just kind of goes in that entire bucket of point guards. I would rather get up to Russ as a spend up now. I think I'm prioritizing Kyrie in so many different spots here. Like I still want to go that route and make that like a pay up position rather than getting to as much Young or Simmons, even though both I think are viable for a little bit cheaper. Then you can maybe go the Jokic Kawhi route or something just to get different if you're doing like a 3-max or, if you're making a bunch of lineups. But for me, I'm making it the priority to get Russ and Kyrie.
All right. We have Pistons news, which was somewhat significant for potential value. Wayne Ellington and Dennis Smith Jr. will both be playing tonight. I'm actually really happy we got that news. It seems like dumb players, but if there was going to be extra, like I just didn't want, like I don't want there to be Pistons value on the slate too. You know what I mean? Like I just want other guys to not consider. Like I don't want.
You don't want Sadiq Bey to go for 50.
No, I don't want it to be a thing where it's like, oh, like Josh Jackson's randomly starting again in like a really positive matchup against the Wizards and just be a situation where I don't want to deal with that. But yeah, now we have, and by the way, Sekou Doumbouya, he missed last game with a migraine. He's probable to play now. Hamidou Diallo is out. He is resting, but there was going to be a situation where I felt I was going to be forced into Pistons plays if those guys were out. So easy enough for me to just not really look at them other than a little bit of exposure to Jeremy Grant. But with those guys in, are there any Pistons that you have any interest in?
Jeremy Grant still. I think that it's hard to get off of 6,600 on FanDuel. That's just really, really good. I'm going through DK. Let me just revamp this. I was just about to click. I'm still getting to a little bit of Jeremy Grant there too. Mason Plumlee as well at 6K, but not anything major. Sitting in like the 20% range, which I think is like about appropriate for me right now. Because I'm just way over on Capella. Hartenstein, okay, I gotta temper expectations here. I'm still getting too much of him for my liking. That's the thing I gotta do in the next 20 minutes.
All right. Let's see. But super chat's flying in. Thanks a lot, guys. We really do appreciate it. Still no ownership update, at least when I checked before. I'll refresh that in a second after reading off some of these super chats. From our guy, Soldope1234. What's up, homies? For FanDuel, Wiseman Butler or Joe Harris, Clint Capella. Thank you, fellas. Good luck tonight. Cool as Greg and Mr. Eric. Well, Mr. Eric, very official.
Wowzer.
All right.
It's the nicest anybody's ever been to me at Awesemo. This is great. It's the second one for me. Harris Capella. Same for me. Clint Capella, I think absolutely a priority center play with no John Collins in the lineup. And then I don't really know what to make of Jimmy Butler with Victor Oladipo making his return. I have some exposure to Jimmy Butler on DraftKings at a 9,000 price point just because he's played so well recently, but just because he's been asked about in the question here. And
just to reiterate, both of us like the Joe Harris, Clint Capella side more. Also, somebody else is going to have to shoot for the Nets other than Kyrie Irving. And it seems like Joe Harris could be one of those guys. But what are your expectations for the Heat now that we have Victor Oladipo thrown into that lineup?
I mean, I am going to get to like just about none of them. And I don't think it's even that he's going to garner a crazy amount of usage. And I don't think this affects the team as much as some people might in terms of like a real life perspective. I don't think he's like the greatest ad that's ever been added in the entire world. I think Avery Bradley can do things on a defensive end that can't necessarily be quantified from a fantasy perspective, but for sure from a fantasy perspective, which is what we care about, I think it definitely is a ding up against Jimmy Butler and Bam. And I got to wait for some of those prices to adjust. That being said, we do have like an unlimited amount of salary to try to mix and match some pieces. I think on FanDuel at like a small forward position, which isn't all that strong ever in a lot of situations. Like if you're going to go the Joe Harris route, Kawhi is going to be super shocked, but I wouldn't be shocked if Jimmy Butler put up a ceiling game here. So I want to make sure that I nuke a little bit of his projection to make sure I get a little bit. Gordon Hayward 7K is going to eat up a lot of that ownership too for me. But Jimmy Butler 9K would probably be the one guy I'd want to go to. But I definitely don't want to use up my center spot on a 9,400 Bam on FanDuel with Victor Oladipo in the mix.
So actually something that has me getting to Jimmy Butler at least a little bit right now, he's in about 20% of my DraftKings lineups, is the news that Goran Dragic is out. Because now I think we could kind of slot Oladipo into a lot of the role that Dragic played. And Dragic, I'm pretty sure the news was that he is going to rest today and play tomorrow. Let me just bring that up. Yeah, resting Thursday, but we'll play Saturday. By the way, I don't even know why they're calling that a back-to-back. That's not even
what it is.
But yeah, but that's the situation. Goran Dragic resting today, playing Saturday. So with that in mind, they played yesterday. That's why it's a back-to-back. All right, there we go. I'm stupid. I understand.
Yeah, on the front end. Yeah, correct.
All right, but anyway, now so Goran Dragic, because he is out, and I don't think that Victor Oladipo, who is yet to play with the Heat, has been dealing with an illness. I don't think he just comes in and plays a massive role right off the bat. So I think he just slots into the Dragic role. And I think that should leave Butler relatively unchanged. Does that make sense?
I like that. Yeah, no, I like that. And also, I don't know if Victor Oladipo is necessarily going to come in and like handle point guard duties for this team. Like Jimmy Butler could be the ball handler and kind of the creator and I expect him to do a lot of that in the half court anyway. But Jimmy Butler playing point, I think would make a lot of sense in this situation, knows the offense, knows kind of what Spoelstra wants to do. So I do like that call. Even on DK, I'm going to try to get to a little bit more of him than before. This is a hilarious question, so I'm just going to bring it up. Chuck GT7, what tilting fake injury news are the Clippers going to release 10 minutes before the game tonight? I'm pretty sure that we're going to get Marcus Morris ruled out, and then after tip, he's going to decide to go out and play. Like that's what I'm anticipating. So what are you thinking, Greg?
I think the tilt news is going to be that Marcus Morris plays because nobody's expecting it. Like, isn't that the tilt at this point where everybody expects the Clippers are going to rule somebody out, so they just let everybody play? They do the inverse. Everybody's expecting the worst. And they're like, oh, what random player is going to be ruled out? Where do I find value? So people are leaving lineup spots open to try to swap to the Clippers value, and they just go, surprise, we got you. Everybody's in, April Fools. So that's what I think it's going to be. It's the thing that nobody expects.
Love it.
By the way, we did get updated ownership here, so I will read those off as promised because you guys, I can't actually track whether people subscribe to the YouTube channel or not, but I'm just going to assume you did. I asked for it. I think in good faith, I'm going to hope that everybody who's watching did. Starting with DraftKings, here are the ownership for the Pelicans chalk plays. James Johnson coming in number 1, 56.6%, followed by Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 54.8%, Eric Bledsoe, 53.4%, Josh Hart at 49.4%. Then the pay up options here, Russell Westbrook coming in at 47.4%, and then a little bit of a drop off before we get to Kyrie Irving, who is at 33.8%. I have to be honest, I'm a little surprised that Kyrie isn't going more owned on DraftKings.
Agreed. I'm also floored by James Johnson being the highest owned player on this slate. Both things are making me pretty uncomfortable. I was kind of trimming James Johnson. What are you doing with James Johnson on DK? I understand he's 3K, but we're not talking about the highest usage monster of all time. And oh man, that makes me gross. Like I feel pretty uncomfortable now.
So I think James Johnson is going to start. And if we look at his numbers for the year,
then that's fine. I didn't think he would even get the guaranteed start in this spot. I guess there's really nobody else that they would play there. So that makes sense. I don't know why I was thinking otherwise.
So for the season, James Johnson playing 17.4 minutes per game, averaging 15 DraftKings points, but that's really is like a very small role player for the most part for the Mavericks. Mm-hmm. I think we could assume he's probably somewhere closer to a point per minute fantasy producer in this situation. And then if I'm going to give him, even if he comes off the bench and plays, like 25 minutes, I'd still be looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 DraftKings points if he starts, which I think is probably what happens. Then I'm looking at over 30 DraftKings points for him. At min price, it's really hard for me to ignore that.
Okay. Oh no. Well, okay. So that was like the one guy that I was just kind of trimming down a little bit. I don't know what I was thinking actually. What did I expect that starting lineup to be? Don't even ask me. I have no idea. What in the world was I doing? I had him at like 19 minutes. So that's why I'm very confused with myself. And Alex has 20 minutes. Okay. So it's similar.
Here's what I think the starting lineup is going to be, by the way. I think it's going to be Eric Bledsoe, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Josh Hart, James Johnson, and Steven Adams.
Okay, that makes sense then. Okay, I'm going to get to more James Johnson then. I just have to do it. I mean, I'd be stupid not to in that spot.
I mean, if we find out he's not starting, we could adjust. And I mean, there's a pretty good chance we're going to find that later. Like I've said before, that we're going to be sticking around 30 minutes after DraftKings and FanDuel lock to do the Jock Market show. And the New Orleans-Orlando game starts at 8. I kind of feel like probably somewhere around 7:10, 7:15. That's probably where we get the Pelicans starting lineup. So all the more reason, guys, for everybody to stick around and keep asking us questions, hang out, make fun of us, have fun, console with us when players get ruled out right after lock.
Greg will make fun of me for you if you need it.
Hey,
if you need it.
My time's coming. There's going to be a time I'm heavy on somebody and he's going to get ruled out right after lock. I've been lucky to avoid that when I've been hosting shows, but make no mistake, my time is definitely coming, especially this time of year. So it could be me on the side of that this time.
It's going to happen by default. You play this game long enough, something awful, just a late scratch that you can't control. That's why you don't play 100% of your bankroll every day. That's kind of great advice right there from Eric Lindquist.
Exactly. You take out a loan, you put a lien on your house, you play 150% of your bankroll every day.
And then you go
right from Eric.
Doesn't work out. Yeah.
So FanDuel ownership now. I'll read off these guys. I assume it's going to be a lot of the same plays. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 47%. He's the most popular play on FanDuel, followed by Russell Westbrook at 42%, Josh Hart, 35.6%, Kyrie Irving at 34.2%, Jimmy Butler actually coming in at 33.8%
surprising
ownership on FanDuel, followed by Kawhi Leonard at 30.6%. So FanDuel guys, James Johnson all the way down to 22.8% and Eric Bledsoe at 19.6%. The Jimmy Butler number, pretty surprising to me on FanDuel.
I don't think it is actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because I think it was kind of what we were talking about a second ago. It's just a result of where else are you going to put your money to work? Like you're going to put it to work at point guard. I think Nikola Jokic, it's just so hard to get up to 11K at center when you have Clint Capella at 8,500. That would be like the one contrarian thing. Like if you just kind of flip flop the two, but Jokic, it is a different situation. And as much as I want to just like jam him because he just feels like the under-owned tournament guy here in this spot, coming off 2 games alongside Aaron Gordon, where they just kind of like put the foot down. They only had to play him 28 and 34 minutes. Like something tells me this would just be like the 65-point game where he just like outpaces Russell Westbrook. And I'm just kicking myself because it's like, well, of course, 10% Jokic was going to go off. Like that's just kind of what was always going to happen. But he's going 15% on FanDuel. So I'm not, I'm feeling pretty good about the Jimmy Butler Kawhi combo, like trying to make that more of a priority. And now that like Josh Hart's over at shooting guard, that kind of changes the landscape of this entire slate. Like if he was at small forward before, I don't think that Jimmy Butler number would exist the way that it does. But because he's over at shooting guard now, I think that definitely allows you to be spending money at small forward for 2 good pay-ups in Kawhi and Jimmy.
All right. We have another super chat here from Rio G. FanDuel question, 3v3, Kawhi Leonard, Danilo Gallinari, Dwight Howard, Gordon Hayward, Clint Capella, or Bogdan Bogdanovic. That was a bunch of names here. I'm going to read them one more time. Okay. Kawhi, Gallo, Howard, or Hayward, Capella, Bogdan. I'm going to go with the Capella side there.
Yes, agreed.
Also, I asked you this the other day. I'll ask you again. Does Dwight Howard get ejected tonight?
No, he does not.
All right.
But if it was going at like plus 450, maybe I'd take a couple dimes and throw it on it.
All right, let's see. Did I get caught up on all the super chats now? I think I did. Oh, no, never mind. We got one in here from there are a bunch of them today.
We're loved today. Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys for all the support. Timothy Bradenstein, FanDuel GPP. A lot of 2v2s today, 2v2s and 3v3s. One
It
that I
makes
feel like
sense.
is pretty similar to one we got before, but James Wiseman and Jimmy Butler, or Mason Plumlee and Gordon Hayward.
That's closer, actually. I mean, I'd probably go on the Plumlee side of it. I don't know. I'm feeling a little lukewarm on spending for Wiseman today, or not even spending, right? Going down to 4K Wiseman today.
All right, and now I'm just going to scroll this really quick to see if I got to all the super chats. They were really rolling in there. And yes, I'm pretty sure we're caught up there. Producer Jordan, if I missed one, please text me so I could read it off. And now, how updated are your lineups for all the news that we've gotten so far?
Pretty good. I just got my FanDuel ones in here again, so I'm excited about that. And I can kind of like skim. I'm just kind of playing a couple hand-built ones that I had before that I'm just kind of minorly tweaking to get more James Johnson. So I'm ready to rock.
And how did you handle the, because I'm looking over my Clippers players now just because we were talking about them. How did you end up handling the Marcus Morris news? What are your expectations?
So I don't think that I'm going to get to like any Patrick Patterson. I don't think that this is a slate where it's really kind of necessitated to jam in any of these guys. I think Kawhi Leonard, 9,300. I had a little Luke Kennard earlier. That's been tempered because shooting guard just doesn't require him very much. I have a little bit over the field. So now Zubac is kind of the situation that we're going to talk about, because I think because they like to play smaller, the Clippers in general, like when they're able to, Morris was starting to cut into some of the minutes of Zubac. And so I think that this helps him more than what the Fields is expecting. So I'm a lot higher over the field on Zubac in this spot, just because I think that he's kind of the main beneficiary of it. And so on FanDuel, if I'm going into that mid-range where I have a little bit of Plumlee, but like Zubac is really the main cog that I want to get to. 5,600, I think single-digit ownership just isn't right for him today.
Yeah, I just updated my Clippers here, and I'm assuming Marcus Morris is in for now. That gets me to a very small amount of Luke Kennard. I have him 10% right now. Still getting to Kawhi Leonard because, I mean, he's in play without Paul George, whether we get that news with Marcus Morris being in or out. But those are the only two guys I have exposure to right now. And I guess if Morris is out, no, there's probably not even other guys I'd get to at that point. Like, I'm going to have a bunch of Pelicans guys locked in. That news is going to come out too late. And it's not worth foregoing roster spots of Pelicans guys to get to Clippers. It's not like the other night where we had, it was a Washington Wizards value night where we still had Clippers guys who were questionable later in the night. And when you have more fringe options where it's like, oh, like Chandler Hutchinson, do I want to play him at min price because he might play 22 minutes, or do I want the potential for, a bunch of Clippers guys? That's a situation where it's like, I'll play some Chandler Hutchinson, but I also want to leave lineup spots open for potential Clippers guys. I'm not doing that on a slate like tonight where I don't want to be foregoing some of the really strong Pelicans values. So not the route that I'm going to be taking for this slate. A couple more super chats. Soul Dope 1234 once again. He's back. You. And yes, sir, you are back with another 2v2 here. He's asking Hartenstein and Gordon Hayward or Jeremy Grant and Joe Harris.
I mean, they're just such different positions. It's just
well, it's one power forward, one small forward.
I was thinking of FanDuel.
So it's Hartenstein.
Hartenstein. Okay.
Hartenstein versus Grant, Hayward versus Harris.
I am probably going to go opposite the Hartenstein. I'm going to go the Grant route.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. So Jeremy Grant on FanDuel, I think, is a really, really strong play. I have him a little bit on DraftKings, but I think on FanDuel he's much stronger. And then Joe Harris and also I have a little bit of reserves about Hartenstein now that he's not starting and he's priced up to 4,000 on FanDuel, which still a favorable price tag, but I think there's a pretty wide range of outcomes there. I'm not exactly sure what to expect from him. Jeremy Grant, I feel really good about him and his price point now that it's mid 6K range on FanDuel. And then Joe Harris, like we talked about before, like, yes, is Kyrie Irving going to have a 40% usage rate today? Yeah, probably, except that still leaves about 60% usage for the rest of the guys in the starting lineup. And Joe Harris is going to be one of the guys that I expect is going to take some of those shots. So I'm going to have Joe Harris exposure on both FanDuel and DraftKings. Not a real massively significant amount, but he's in my player pool today. Demetrius Johnson, another super chat. I assume this is not Demetrius Johnson, the world champion fighter and arguably awesome, the best. If Demetrius Johnson, arguably the best flyweight in UFC history, is leaving a super chat, that would be pretty cool. Ben Simmons over Kyrie Irving for the win. Not for me.
Nope. Let's really hope not. He's kind of been taking a nap anyway. So I'm going to go to the active Kyrie Irving, who just got done burning incense and living his life for a week. I'm happy to go that direction.
All right, and another super chat to read here from Solid Picks. NAW and Hart, both at shooting guard on FanDuel for GPP. It's super chalky, but I think rightfully so.
Yep, I have no problem doing it.
All right, and I think this time we are finally caught up on the super chats. Every time I say that, then I look down and then look up, and there's another super chat. But all right, I'm gonna get to our premium Slack chat now, and I'm gonna read off some of the questions that we have here. Would you guys play Mike Scott in a FanDuel GPP now that he is starting? That is a no for me. Mike Scott has made a handful of starts this year, and it's not only that he's not a great per-minute fantasy producer, he doesn't even usually play that many minutes in his starts. I'm going to pull him up really quickly.
Also, where else are you going to punt? Like, I don't want to punt in like a 3,600 down there when you could just go up. I mean, I would much rather pay in the 4K range for like a Hartenstein. I would rather go up to Jeremy Grant, 6,600. You're kind of punting that position by default already. And so just live in that mid-range. Don't get too cute. You're already getting enough value on the slate to go elsewhere. Just don't do it.
All right. So Mike Scott this year has made 6 starts. How many fantasy points do you think he's averaging in those starts?
Probably like 12.
A little better than you're giving him credit for. But
okay, sorry, 17.
Yeah, 16 and a half, which is still not nearly enough for a slate like this where we're just loaded with value. Here's a question from Jordan Reeves, another super chat. James Johnson or Hartenstein on FanDuel for cash? For that, I'm going to look at the latest ownership. I would just lean towards whichever player is projecting more ownership for cash in that situation.
I would agree with that. I think it would be Hartenstein over there. Plus, I think you're going to want to play 4 other Pelicans in cash. I think that might be the other part of the equation is on FanDuel. I think just the way I'm thinking about, the whole question is like the cash question becomes Russell Westbrook and Kyrie on cash there, or are you going to be plugging in Eric Bledsoe? Like what would, I don't know the right answer. I'm not playing cash, so I don't have to like make that tough. That would be a very tough decision. And it would just depend on what else I got by going down to Bledsoe there.
So here's what I'm going to say. My priority is going to be playing James Johnson, who is projected for about 7% more ownership than Hartenstein. But there's also a price difference there. Hartenstein I've projected for slightly more fantasy points, and he's $500 more expensive. So I think that the priority becomes for me, James Johnson, but I'm not leaving $500 in salary on the table either. So it depends what you're doing with those other $500. If you just have $500, then I say play Hartenstein. But if it's something where you have the option to spend the $500 and maybe upgrade another position to a player that you like more, then that's a move that I would be willing to make.
Yep.
Another super chat here, just nonstop. They are
what a day
piling in.
Jeez.
Are Cathelza, Rui, and Hartenstein, or Neto and Kennard DK single lineup? Those guys are in way different price ranges, aren't they?
Yeah,
like Rui,
but
and
it's the first one that everything about the second one maybe throw up a little bit.
And so Rui is somebody we didn't really talk about yet. He definitely gets a bump with Bradley Beal out again, but he's kind of priced favorably. He's somebody that I have in my player pool, but I don't have a whole bunch of exposure to him. So did you get to Rui a ton? I've gotten to him a bunch.
Rui a lot. I am kind of obsessed with him in a lot of ways. I felt like as soon as the Scott Brooks comments came out, I was full bore all in on him the first couple times out of the gate when he was playing 36, 38, 40 minutes pretty much all the time. The minutes are so secure. Also, the usage has been there in a more meaningful way. You take James Harden off the floor, Kyrie Irving and him, it's like they're the two guys who are going to play the most. It's him and Joe Harris. Like Joe Harris went off last time. Like this could just as easily be a Rui Hachimura spot in today. So I really like kind of making that pivot. I'm overweight to him and I'm more at the field on Harris.
Yeah, so Rui at 6,800 on DraftKings, I have him projected for about 34.5 fantasy points. That just has him not showing up a lot for me. It's a price range. I think he's a different play on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. But at least on DraftKings, I'm finding it hard to get to him. 6,000 on FanDuel, totally different story. I think he is he's one of the top plays on FanDuel at the small forward position at that price.
I just don't like power forward on DraftKings like all that much. Like Tobias Harris is kind of priced out of the day a little bit, like on that top end. James Johnson, we've talked about. I expect, I don't know. I just got a new run of ownership and that number's coming down. I was really, really floored by like 55%. It's down to like 46. I think that makes me a little bit more comfortable because I'm a little bit below that still. Jeremy Grant is really 7,200 is different than the 6,600 you have over on FanDuel. There's just not much power forward that I like really outside of Gordon Hayward going as like kind of my tournament guy to go around 20%, which is over the field. But like the position in general is kind of garbage. And if Marcus Morris gets ruled out, you could be really left holding the bag. So I'd rather make a tournament stand a little bit with Rui, who I think at 10% is just going under-owned on DK. That's kind of my thought process with it.
Yeah, so that's what I have. I'm right around with the field on Rui, and I've been massively overweight to him the last few slates, and it's gone really well, but I'm finding it hard to get there. I personally like James Johnson a lot. Even Taurean Prince I have a little bit of exposure to as a really cheap power forward. I like Joe Harris on this slate. I like Jeremy Grant, even at a slightly more elevated price on DraftKings compared to FanDuel. So those are the power forwards that, at least on a points per dollar basis, I like a little bit more than Rui, but once again, different situation on FanDuel versus DraftKings. FanDuel only 6,000, almost impossible to get away from him in that salary.
Yep, same.
All right, super chat. Another one here from R. Cathelza and MET. What is all right? So I'm gonna ignore that part of it. Kira and Hartenstein or Luke and Neto. I assume it's Luke Kennard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say Kira Lewis and Hartenstein. Yeah, it would be Luke. It would be Luke Kennard and Neto for me if one Neto was starting and we knew Marcus Morris out. Neto's coming off the bench. I think he's gonna be playing limited minutes. Luke Kennard, we don't totally know what his role is going to be if Marcus Morris plays. So give me Hartenstein and Kira Lewis. Another super chat here from Malukar. Duncan Robinson and Luke Kennard or Bruce Brown and LaMarcus Aldridge or Rudy Gay. I have no clue what to expect from LaMarcus Aldridge. No interest in Rudy Gay. I don't want to tell somebody to rebuild their entire lineup 4 minutes before lock, but I don't really like Duncan Robinson for this slate. And Luke Kennard.
Start over.
Yeah,
I'll tell them. This can be good cop, bad cop. Don't do what you're doing. That's it.
Yeah, I'm just trying. Did you roster Duncan Robinson at all tonight?
No, I don't have a single share. I just looked. I don't have any.
All right, Duncan Robinson's price on FanDuel. Also, somebody I just didn't consider. The other thing also, Duncan Robinson, I assume that he is one of the guys who's going to take a hit with Victor Oladipo back. I mean, he's still going to get his minutes, Duncan Robinson, but we're already talking about somebody who doesn't get all that much usage. He's at 4,500 on FanDuel. I mean, we've seen him recently at 4,200, 3,900. It's weird to say 4,500 is overpriced, but I think with Victor Oladipo in the mix, 4,500, that's a little bit more than I'd be willing to pay for Duncan Robinson. By the way,
I've got one question for you because I have one big kind of thing.
Let me read a super chat first because we just got another one in and there's only 3 minutes until
thanks,
lock.
guys. Yeah, we'll fly.
Ruben Mitchell, do you think Morris was scratched because back-to-back? No, he's missed more than one game now. I think he was scratched. I think he was scratched just because he's actually hurt. I think he's dealing with a calf injury. Like my assumption the other day was Paul George was it was a fake injury. I thought the Marcus Morris was a fake injury, but once these guys start to miss multiple games, then I think there's actually something to it. So Marcus Morris missed last game because he's actually hurt. That's why he missed the last 2 games. That doesn't mean he's definitely going to miss today's game also, but I think if you were to ask me what are the odds of Marcus Morris playing today, I would say 50-50. I don't have a strong lean in whether he's in or out or not. I don't think it had anything to do with the back-to-back, but all right, sorry, you go ahead and ask me the question.
I just had one question. Denny Avdia, what are you doing with him on DraftKings?
Dude, he's a garbage fantasy producer. Like Denny,
he's awful. He's completely terrible. But I'm saying that if there was ever a spot, he did go 1 for 10 last game, and nobody's really going to go that direction the way that they maybe would have if he had gone 5 for 10 in that spot. And now you take James Harden off the floor, and it kind of opens it up a little bit. I don't know. I made my last 3 max lineup and was kind of like stuck around that 4K range, and so I just plugged him in. I didn't know what you thought about him.
I just don't.
He
really
was like
see
my last guy in.
I just don't really see the upside. When do you think was the last time he scored over 30 fantasy points?
Oh, it's been a long time, but this is just kind of like a little bit of a different situation. He's played 32 minutes back to back, and now you take Harden off the floor. There's going to be meaningful minutes where the usage can at least exist for him. Like Kyrie's not going to have 55% usage or something. Like Deni Avdija, Rui Hachimura, like these guys are going to get they're going to get opportunities. So I'm just kind of like thinking, oh, sorry, I didn't mean judge, but you know what I meant. Rui Hachimura in general, like Raul Neto, like all those guys are going to have opportunities. So I was just kind of like stuck at that spot.
So by the way, Deni he's played over 30 minutes in recent games. Last game, 32 minutes, 15 DraftKings points. The game before, 32 minutes, 24 and a half DraftKings points. He had games in earlier March where he played over 30 minutes, 31 minutes against the Bucks. 21 fantasy points, 35 minutes against the Bucks, 19 fantasy points. Let's go through the box score. 33 minutes against the Heat in February, scored 20 fantasy points. Overall for the year, Denny's playing 22 and a half minutes per game and scoring 15 and a half DraftKings points. He's just so bad as a points per minute fantasy producer.
It's really bad.
And don't get me wrong, I have been on the losing end of Denny almost every slate, but that he's been a relatively viable option. And it's gotten to a point where I've just nuked his rates so much that I'm just not getting to him. So
I was hoping you were going to agree with me because I'm going to do it anyway. Like he's still going to stay in my lineup here at this point in time. Like I think we're at lock, but I don't know. I just wanted to be able to blame you if it didn't go well. That seemed like fun.
Oh no, nobody blamed by. But you could have blamed me for the other dozen times that Denny hasn't worked this season. But
okay,
I will take no responsibility for it tonight. By the way, we are at lock, but Eric and I, we are not going anywhere. We're going to be sticking around for the next 30 minutes to talk about Jock Market. So do we have the bell, Jordan? No. All right, no bell.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, there we go. There's the bell. There's the sound effect. I knew we had it somewhere. All right, so Jock Market, guys, they are running a special promo with the MLB season starting. And by the way, Jock Market, even though we're talking about it for NBA purposes right now, they are also running MLB contests. They run contests for MLB, NBA, NFL, and PGA. So if you guys go and download the Jock Market app, number one, you could follow along with Eric and I as we talk about some of the bids we're going to be placing on guys. And then also, if you want to make a deposit, use the promo code Awesemo50. And that is a promo code for the start of the MLB season. That will be a $50 deposit bonus with any deposit of $20 or more. So even if you deposit $20, you're going to get a $50 deposit on Jock Market. So if you guys aren't familiar with Jock Market, a little different way to play fantasy. We're not building lineups like other sites. There are no real lineup constructions. We're not building lineups at all. Instead, we're bidding on these players as if they are actual stocks. And then depending on where they finish at the end of the night, that is how much return you get based on what the IPO prices you bid on them for. So let's open up the Jock Market app right now. And have you placed any bids on players yet?
I was going to while we were talking there, and then I kind of got caught up in trying to figure out my James Johnson situation of life. So there was that.
And I assume we're going to be getting that
starting lineup soon. We just got the Nets one, and LaMarcus Aldridge is starting.
Wow. Who else is
I did not see that coming.
All right,
just
what is
throwing that out
starting
there.
lineup?
Let me see. I just had somebody text me. One of my buddies was like, Aldridge, LOL. So that's all I saw. Irving, Brown, Harris, Green, Aldridge.
All right. And guys, once again, people who are throwing in fake news into the YouTube chat, you're getting put in timeout, Mr. I'm not even going to say his name. No reason to give out fake names, guys, to give out fake news, guys. Like we're going to get the news. We've got the news guy on Negro Loco, the best in the biz, breaking all the news. If it doesn't come from him, it's not official. You don't have to listen to whatever, Jock Monkey 17 or whatever in the YouTube chat. This guy, they got no information, these guys. So anyway, here we go. The Nets starting lineup. Like we just said, Kyrie Irving, Bruce Brown, Joe Harris, Jeff Green, and LaMarcus Aldridge. So before we start talking about the Jock Market really quick, and also I'm kind of curious, I want to see if LaMarcus Aldridge is there. Are you going to want to get to any LaMarcus Aldridge now that we know that he's in the starting lineup? Very cheap on FanDuel and DraftKings.
Yeah, he's 4K. I'm going to get to a tiny bit. I think when I read Crunch, I don't think that this changes. Like I had him around 20 minutes anyway. I don't think he's going to play like 28 minutes his first game out of the gate here. I talked a little bit yesterday, like about Andre Drummond, which rip, that was fun. But Andre Drummond in general, like these are conditioned athletes. LaMarcus Aldridge just has a lot of miles on him. So it's a little bit different situation. I don't see him getting extended to 26 or 28, but yeah, I would be surprised if I didn't get a little once we recrunch.
All right, let's see. What is a reasonable minutes expectation? Oh, the other thing I wanted to look at too, the jock market. I want to see if there was an IPO bid for LaMarcus Aldridge. I want to see if he's in the player pool because new player and there's a chance he is in. All right, right now the bidding for LaMarcus Aldridge is at $1.05. Would you be willing to place a bid on LaMarcus Aldridge?
Yeah, I'm going to do it, and then somebody else can snipe me in 5 seconds. That'd be great. Let's do that.
I'm going to open up our IPO pricing, which, by the way, are free if you guys go to Awesemo.com and you're not sure what is a fair amount to bid on some of these guys in the IPO market. We have projections. They are free on Awesemo.com, so you go check it out. And that's a really good way to just compare these players. You could look at whatever, based on Alex's numbers, what he projects a fair IPO price. For instance, he has Russell Westbrook projected to be worth $17.40 tonight. So right now he's been bid up to, let's see, where is his IPO?
Not high enough.
No, he is bid at, oh no, you know what? Never mind. He isn't on the,
because it's 4 o'clock. It's 4 o'clock lock. So that's why Kyrie's number is high. Cause I was confused. I was like, how could they both be around that 17 number? Yeah. Well, Russell is basically a wash there. So Kyrie,
Russ isn't on it. So Kyrie would be the highest of the players who are available at $17 right now. The bidding on Kyrie, he's at $9. So that's somebody who I would say is a little bit undervalued based on the number here. And with Kyrie, fair IPO price is $17. I'd be willing to go, right up until to that kind of number. I wouldn't want to get right at the fair price of 17, but anywhere around 16, I'd be pretty happy with Kyrie. And definitely one of the guys who I think has the best chance of being a really high scorer on the slate. So right now, I'm going to bring up Brooklyn. Let's see what the expectations are for the center rotation. How much do you think DeAndre Jordan gets marginalized now that he's coming off the bench?
I mean, he is going to basically not exist. He didn't exist. Well, he's going to exist today because no Blake Griffin, but he didn't exist the last couple of games. He played 12 minutes, 14 minutes. I bet he plays around 18, 20. And I think LaMarcus is probably looking at 24 or so, and they'll play Jeff Green at the 5 for a hot second, I'm sure, at some point too.
Yeah, I think there's a chance that DeAndre Jordan's about to fall out of the rotation entirely. And it's funny too.
I totally agree. Yeah.
It's funny because there's a non-zero chance that Kenny Atkinson was fired just because he wasn't starting DeAndre Jordan over, which how ridiculous is that in hindsight. The Nets were starting Jared Allen over DeAndre Jordan, and that led to, Kyrie and Durant getting so upset that it led to Atkinson getting fired. Now, I mean, how much would they love to have Jared Allen starting over DeAndre Jordan?
No kidding. Claxton's better than DeAndre Jordan at this point in time. So I would rather go that direction.
I think Claxton's better than a lot of dudes, though.
He's very good.
All right, let's see. I'm going to update my lineups for this news on DraftKings. Let's see if I get to any LaMarcus Aldridge. I always like when I make updates and then run it through, and it's like, cool, I did that, and it led to 0% of the player.
I'm curious what Alex gives him for minutes. That's really the question is I don't know. If you project him for 22, he's viable. He wasn't viable at 18, which is kind of where we were kind of billing him on the front end of it. You get him up to 22, roughly just short of a point per minute guy at 4K becomes viable. If you were to shoot up to 25, 26 minutes, I think I'm going to get to him in a double digit meaningful way.
Yeah, it looks like I'm not going to be getting to him. There's just too many
48 on FanDuel. That's not great.
It's just too many other better value plays. And it's still hard to know what the minutes are going to be for LaMarcus Aldridge. I agree with you. If I knew he was playing 28, 30 minutes, I would love LaMarcus Aldridge. There's also, a whole bunch of usage available, but as of right now, it looks like it is not going to be happening. So, all right, let's place some jock market bids here, guys. Don't forget, use the promo code Awesemo50 for the start of the MLB season. Just a $20 deposit, and you're going to get a $50 bonus on a jock market deposit right there. Give you some nice bucks to start with. All right, so the first thing that stands out to me, Nikola Jokic only bid at $5 right now. So I'm going to scoop right in, try to get to some Jokic here.
First thing that stands out to me is Reggie Jackson is going for $1 right now. That is wrong, sir. You are wrong.
All right, I am winning 4 shares of Nikola Jokic. Probably won't be for long though, but yes, I've placed a bid in for Jokic. He's still only at $5, and according to Alex's projections, the fair IPO price for Jokic is $14.03, so about triple what he is going for right now. Let's see if we have any questions also in the YouTube chat here related to this. No Jock Market questions. By the way, guys, if anybody has questions about Jock Market, feel free to fire them into our premium Slack chat. Also, fire them into the YouTube chat, and we'll definitely be getting to them. Let's see. What are cheaper guys? And by cheaper, I mean guys who, value plays on FanDuel and DraftKings. What of those types of guys would you be looking to potentially place bids on the Jock Market?
We're talking Pelicans guys like James Johnson.
Yeah, we could talk about the Pelicans guys.
Isn't there? Let's see. James Johnson's there for $1. I think for somebody who I think is a little bit, I'm just below the field, I think, on DK from where he's going to come in at. I wouldn't mind getting to him right around $1 as well. If you were to somehow spike an upside there, that's part of it, is that you can't get burned by some of these dudes that are super cheap. You're kind of putting in a couple bucks here, just hoping that they do get some kind of meaningful run on the bottom end. And then if they go for $3 or something, you just get off. Like it's not too difficult to go that direction as well. Looking at some of the pricings that we have there, Hartenstein having a break-even price of $3, that's probably going to be a pass for me. I'm going to find it tough to want to bid on somebody. There's so much volatility to what his minutes could be today, and I think $3, he's still going to get bid on. I think that's just kind of a stay away number. The tough one to figure out what I want to do with before lock, I'm curious what his number will get to, is Marcus Morris. Because if you do assume that he's going to play, at what number does it become cost prohibitive to not be on him? Because you're looking at either getting $0 back. It's basically having a DFS lineup where it's either $0 back, or you have the upside of somebody who can get you in that $8, $9 range on $2 a share or something.
By the way, James Johnson projected for a fair IPO price of $1.50. According to Alex's projections. And also, I think Alex had him projected for 20 minutes. So just think, if James Johnson ends up starting, then I think that fair IPO price probably raises somewhere in the 260, 270 range. So hopefully we get that starting lineup sometime in the next 20 minutes. Once again, we did have LaMarcus Aldridge starting for the Nets. That was unexpected. Other news here, DeAndre Hunter ruled out. So that is going to help Clint Capella, in my opinion. That is just one less option for the Hawks to play a small ball lineup. So DeAndre Hunter being out, is that going to impact anything for you? I can't really get to more Clint Capella. He's already in, I think he's in 55% of my lineups or something like that. So I'm riding with Clint Capella. Are you changing anything with the DeAndre Hunter news?
I mean, I might get to a little bit more Gallo, 5,200 over on DK, but only been playing around the 23-minute range. No, I'm probably not going to change that at all. No, I'm not. I lied. Yep, not going to touch it.
All right, we do have a question here from Chris Brown. Not the Rihanna Chris Brown, a different Chris Brown. I know it's a different one because he spells it with a K, so that's how I know it's a different guy. That's the only reason I know, though. He wants to know, what is Josh Hart's fair IPO price? And we have Josh Hart projected for $6.10 as a fair price on the Jock Market. And
he's going for $327 right now. So get in on top of that.
I was winning a bit on Clint Capella. I'm not anymore. Still winning shares on Jokic though, which I'm pretty happy with if that holds. I'm going to bid on Josh Hart right now.
You're about to take my shares then.
You have shares of Josh Hart right now? Not for long. Not for long. All right, bid on Josh Hart. Let's see if I'm winning. Did I outbid Eric?
That's all that matters.
Yeah, you should know that when we're doing these shows together, I hear which players you say are underpriced. As soon as you say you're placing a bid on them, I go right and try to bid more than I think you bid on them.
Yeah, that's why I just lost Josh Hart and Kyrie Irving. You're seriously. It's a good thing I actually like you, because otherwise I would be very insulted by the mean things that you say in my direction. Let's see.
But if it makes you feel better, I'm sincere about all of it.
No, it really doesn't. Thank you.
Okay.
LaMarcus Aldridge, $1.44. That's probably getting closer to the ballpark. Again, you're looking at a lot of minutes volatility, I think, in my opinion, at the moment. I have no idea where they're going to land, but I'd be happy to find out for under $2. So I still got 3 shares of that. Kyrie Irving, I still have 2 shares of, but I'm sure that somebody's going to snipe that from me. Like there's Zibanejad, so there's that. I'm trying to think of who else I would really want to go to in this spot.
We're getting a lot of
LaMarcus
Clippers
Aldridge news.
We are getting a lot of LaMarcus Aldridge questions right now.
Okay.
People asking whether
Alex gets in.
Yeah, people asking, is he available on the jock market? Yes, he is. And that was something also that Eric had just read off, that he was bid up to $1.44 right now is his IPO price. Thoughts on him starting? I don't know. Anybody has like a really strong opinion on him as a starter? Like for sure, there's a whole bunch of usage available in the Nets starting lineup for sure. But also like Andre Drummond last night was, at least on FanDuel, DraftKings 7,800 was a different scenario. FanDuel, Drummond came in. He was as bad as anybody could possibly play. He also left the game with an injury. He didn't really appear to be in best game shape. LaMarcus Aldridge.
He said he stepped on a foot in the first quarter. He said he stepped on somebody's foot and it hurt from like the get-go, from the very beginning of that game, which showed because he was terrible.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is there's just a lot of uncertainty with guys entering a new team. Like I don't know what his role is going to be. He could, for all we know, it could be like Aldridge plays 18 minutes, DeAndre Jordan plays 18 minutes, Nick Claxton plays the other 12 minutes at center. So here's what I think: if in GPPs, if you're playing single entry, don't play LaMarcus Aldridge. If you're somebody who plays 20 plus lineups, you could throw LaMarcus Aldridge in, like 10%, throw him in a few lineups. I have no issue with that. If you're really investing heavily in not Andre Drummond, I just called LaMarcus Aldridge Andre Drummond, but I mean, it might as well be the same name at this point. If you're investing really heavily in LaMarcus Aldridge, there's just a whole lot of variance there, and I don't know what to expect from it. So he's okay as a punt play, but there's so much value on this slate that I don't think that you have to go to him at all.
I agree with you there.
All right, I see you looking. I got outbid on Jokic. Was that your doing? I hope it was, because then we're even.
Maybe.
Was it?
It was not me. No, I wish it was. That would have been a great story. Clint Capella going too cheap still right now too. Clint Capella at $550. Are you joking?
Yeah. So the other thing also is with the way that the jock market scoring works, where there's negative points for missed shots. He doesn't miss many shots at Clint Capella because he doesn't take it more than 3 feet away from the basket. So definitely all the reason to like him. Also, I'm going to go place a bid on Clint Capella. Let's bid against each other.
Let's not. How about we not do that?
Yeah, bid against each other. Eric's in. All right. I bid on 3 shares of Clint Capella. Let's see if I win them.
You've been outbid. You're the worst. You're the stone cold worst. Thank you.
I'm winning 3 shares of Clint Capella.
Oh, I want Jeremy. Well, no, Jeremy Grant's locked. There's no getting Jeremy Grant either. I was going to say that's somebody that is kind of looking at. How about, okay, I don't even want to say his name because I know that I'm going to get screwed. So I was just thinking about this entire Marcus Morris situation and everything I had that applied to Vika Zubats. This is like the time to get him. He's going for way too cheap. It's $1.50. I literally have 12 shares of him right now at $1.50. His break-even price is way higher. Like I find it impossible not to want to get to a ton of him. And there's the upside that exists that if you get Morris out, that he could see a little extended run. I really like going that direction.
Yeah, I don't mind that. And just because I think that was a salient point by you, I'm not going to bid on him. He is all yours. Somebody in the YouTube chat could jump in and outbid you instead.
That's fair.
Yeah, I'd recommend they go ahead and do that. Yeah. You know what? It would be so. Oh, by the way, we have a Pelicans starting lineup.
Ooh.
Oh, this is exactly what I said it was going to be. So I feel good about myself. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Eric Bledsoe, Josh Hart, James Johnson, and Steven Adams. There we go. James Johnson in the starting lineup. What do you make of that? I know you were a little uncertain about James Johnson, but like I said, hey, I'm out here predicting terrible starting lineups, correct? Because it's Eric Bledsoe related. Anything that's Eric Bledsoe, somewhat related to him, I'm going to be in on it. So now that James Johnson is starting, is that going to change anything for you?
I'm gonna ride it where it's at. I'm just a tiny bit below the field over on DK. FanDuel, I didn't have a ton of necessity to go that direction anyway. I think this part of it is that like it's him and Wes Iwundu Like those are like your small forward, power forward guys on that team. Josh Hart can play the 3 there, but like for me, the thing is like I could see a lineup where they bring Hernan Gomez or Hayes or somebody to go alongside Adams, maybe, but otherwise, yeah, you could be looking at a crazy amount of minutes. That was something that was kind of a blind spot for me, and it just blew my mind that he was the highest owned player. But I think it makes some sense now in this situation, and there's definitely 32 minutes that I think is probably his built-in minutes number now. Is that kind of where you've got him at?
No, I have him for 26 minutes, just because if I give him any more minutes, then he ends up in 100% of my lineups, which I wouldn't really have too much of an issue with. I mean, I have him off the top of my head, the numbers like 85 or 90% James Johnson on DraftKings, flat minute 3,000. I think it's a little different on FanDuel where he's at 3,500 and there's other guys we could roster at the power forward position. But for DraftKings, I find it personally impossible to get away from him.
Okay. Yeah, I think now that he's starting, it's going to be, yeah, I'm going to have to bump it. I'm just going to go through and do it here now.
All right. People seem really amped up.
I hate when you're right.
People seem really amped up about Kevin Love. What did he do to start the game?
Is he just going nuts?
I can't imagine.
12.2. 12.2 on FanDuel at 4,200.
Yeah. Well, and he's also played 4 minutes, which is almost his entire minute allotment for the game at this point. Right? Like, I mean, it would be, by the way, I would be, just based on what the ownership is on Hartenstein, I would be pretty cool if Kevin Love just plays like 15 minutes and Hartenstein gets kind of marginalized.
Yep.
Hartenstein is, how popular is Hartenstein?
I didn't end up on like just about any at this point.
I have a small, not a small amount, but like he's in, oh, by the way, Russell Westbrook, an awful start for him. But yeah, I don't have all that much Hartenstein relative to the field. So he's in some of my lineups, but the field is like massively heavy on him. I think more than they should. So not that it's going to matter for me if Russell Westbrook has a bad game, but
I wish I could buy into Russell Westbrook on the jock market this second. I would just jam it.
We've seen that a lot this year where there's guys who just get off to really bad starts and just everybody tries to dump shares on the jock market. But yeah, I mean, that's something to pay attention to when the games start at 7:30. So like Kyrie Irving, I think that I would have said that Russell Westbrook is close to a can't miss player on this slate, but I feel the same about Kyrie. If Kyrie gets off to a bad start, I would definitely be trying to buy shares on him if people try to dump them.
Yep.
All right, let's jump back into the jock market and see what some of the
Kyrie Irving's way too cheap. I'm getting some Kyrie Irving. I mean, his break-even price is $17, and he's going for $11.51 right now. I mean, you're looking at a huge gap there. I like getting to some of him. Anything below 15, there's a huge opportunity to get on top of that.
Yeah, I was bidding on Clint Capella, but I've since been outbid. So whoever got Clint Capella, good for you.
How about Tyler pulling that out on the late slate show last night?
He's done it a few times. He's got his finger. By the way, you're gonna make Jordan jealous. Don't go talking about other producers. See, look at that. It is
not Jordan and Tyler.
You forced him to start paying attention. You forced him to start paying attention to the show there when you mentioned his name.
Beetlejuice. Here we go. That's an older reference.
No, I got that one. I know what that was.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
I'm 33. I'm an elder statesman at this point in time.
Let's see. Jock market. Where's James Johnson out now that he is officially starting? 191. I will happily try to place bids on James Johnson at that kind of price. I mean, I'm already so invested in on my main slate stuff that if James Johnson's a bad game, I'm kind of out of luck anyway. So let's try to bid on 10 shares of James Johnson. Let's see if I get any of these. I am winning all 10 shares of James Johnson. Let's go. I have
86% James Johnson now. Are you kidding me? How? Oh, God. If he has a bad game now, I'm just gonna now I can blame you. This is great. I was waiting for something to be able to blame you over.
Yeah,
this is great. The chalkiest play on the slate. I'll make sure I get in your Twitter and let you know.
What's the admin price on DraftKings? What's the number that he would have to go over for you? Like if he scores 20 DraftKings points at 3,000, like that's not troll worthy.
I can't. It's not trouble.
What's the
You'd
number
have
that
to have
makes it my
single
fault?
digits. You'd have to have single digits
Okay.
to be your fault. It would have to be an Andre Drummond experience. He would have to step on somebody's foot. He would have to like try to walk it off, do whatever, and then go out in the third quarter. Then I'm going to blame you because that was all you're doing.
I feel like I'm absolved from injuries though.
Okay, you're probably absolved from that. But
Yeah,
if he goes out and plays 25 minutes of like meaningless ball where he has a usage of like 6%, like Isaac Okoro, PJ Tucker territory, I'm blaming you.
Yeah, that would be my fault without a doubt. I would definitely say that I would be responsible for that in that situation. Are you winning bids on anybody right now?
Yeah, James Johnson.
Oh, I'm still winning my shares though.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the Kyrie Irving well here. He's up to 13 now. See, that's better, everybody. Now we're playing the game. I'm going to try to go. God, I'm going to try to get a couple Clipper pieces. Zubats is still kind of the guy that I want to get to, I think. I think that makes a lot of sense. $4 is where he's at now. $4.50.
My guy, Eric Bledsoe, bid up to $5.
Ooh.
The fair IPO price, according to Alex, is $5.40. It would be massively off-brand for me if I did not try to get some shares of Eric Bledsoe.
It would be. Oh, that's the guy that freaks me out tonight a little bit. Yeah.
Why is this?
Just in general, because we know it's Eric Bledsoe and that there could be a floor there, but of course I'm over the field on him. So what am I going to do? Like, it's the best play on the slate.
By the way, somebody outbid me on all my shares of James Johnson. Was that you?
No, it was not me, actually. I was literally talking.
Let's see. How
about
he been bid
Bogdan
up to?
Bogdanovic is up to 340. What's his break even? Because DeAndre Hunter off the floor too. I mean, he did play 37 minutes last time out, but Hunter hasn't been a part of this rotation yet anyway. He's been out for like, a week now? 2 weeks?
The fair IPO price, according to Alex's projections, is $1.50.
Ooh, we're going to pass.
Yeah. He's not somebody I ended up getting exposure to on the main slate.
Yeah, I had a little on FanDuel at 4,200. I thought that was just too cheap.
We just got a question. Somebody asked about Josh Hart. Where is he currently bid at? His IPO is currently bid up to $6.75, and that is going to be more than I am willing to bid on Josh Hart. The fair IPO projection we have for him is $6.10. So $6.75, even with all the value that's open, all the usage, all the playing time for New Orleans, I don't want to get upwards of nearly $7 on Josh Hart, especially because, for reference, let's see, who are the other guys? By the way, Josh Hart now over $7. Who are some of the other guys that are at the $7 range? Like, he's going for more than Gordon Hayward. He's actually going for more than Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Nickeil Alexander-Walker,
it's crazy.
Right now it's $6.51. Josh Hart at $7.09. He's going for a full $1 more than DeMar DeRozan. Like, that's bonkers to me. Oh, I just got outbid on everybody at the same time.
That might have been me.
Was it? Well, you don't even know which guys I had.
Gordon Hayward, I bet.
Nope, it wasn't Gordon Hayward. I don't even remember.
Okay.
I had James Johnson. I've just been bidding on guys. I don't even remember who they were, but I just got outbid on all of them.
I just got outbid on Zubats again. Come on. Who's doing this to me?
I promise that one is not me.
Okay. You're letting me have him at this point. You're like, That was sound reasoning to a certain extent. You sounded smarter than you are. There we go.
I bid $6.90 on everybody who is at not that price that I would like to be higher.
That doesn't seem like your brand. That doesn't seem like you'd be the betting 69 person.
All right, let's go. Come on, give me a bid on somebody. I'm winning. Who do you got?
I got Jimmy Butler right now. He's got to get up to, what was it at? 1160, and it's still a little bit light there. He's going for too cheap. He's at 899, so we're going to plug in another number there. Just go get those. Thank you so much. Please close the bell. Close the market. Give me my Jimmy Butler. See, this is what's crazy because it closes right before the 4:30. It's like a minute or two, and it's like tough to get the exact timing of it. But like, you can get just locked in on a guy right before it. Nope, got outbid on Jimmy Butler. Somebody.
Uh-oh, that's no good. I always want to be invested in somebody, and I hate when I get outbid on all of my guys right before lock.
Oh man.
Be
All
nice
right.
to me, guys.
Eric Bledsoe. I still
Marcus
think
Morris at 155. If he ends up playing, somebody's getting an absolute bargain on Marcus Morris.
I'm going to actually go do that here at this moment in time because I don't have enough of him probably as I should. I'm willing
Kira
to
Lewis,
blow up
$1.90 is our fair IPO projection for him, and he is at almost $3. That's a bit rich for me. These other cheap guys, they don't do anything for me. Come on, close the market. I want my DeMar DeRozan. I was just outbid on him.
Bidding has ended. I got 10 shares of Marcus Morris at $1.65.
Hey, let's see. What is our fair projection for Marcus Morris?
Man.
All right, so if Marcus Morris plays, we have a fair IPO projection of $3.50. So I mean, potentially, like, the expectation would be that you're going to about double your money if he ends up playing. The risk here is just, does he play or not?
And also, you said 50-50, if I do recall. So if it's a 50-50 shot of him getting there or not. So I'm invested less than half of what his fair IPO is. I feel like that's a pretty good deal with some upside. I'm happy about it.
Hey, that's how you play the jock market, according to us, who are kind of learning it as we go. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a fun way to play. You've given yourself a significant amount of upside for sure. Guys, by the way, if you've not done it already, go to your app store, Google Play Store, whatever the other app stores are called on your different mobile devices. Download the Jock Market app. Use the promo code on your first deposit, Awesemo50. If you make a deposit of even just $20, you're going to get a $50 deposit bonus. So definitely something to go check out. Also, if you're not sure how much you want to bid on players on the Jock Market, we have free projections that are up on Awesemo.com. So obviously, we encourage everybody to sign up for an Awesemo Plus membership. But even if you don't have one, we have projections up for Jock Market for free that anybody can go check out at any point in time. So definitely go check that out. And also, guys, if you haven't done it already, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, because the news never stops here. The shows never end. We have shows going on from starting at like 6 a.m. now, and then they go until, late at night now. We've got an MLB late slate live before lock for tonight. There's a 3-game late slate show. So Eric, any closing thoughts? Who's gonna kill you tonight?
Oh gosh, James Johnson, absolutely. Now a guy that I was under the field, now I'm way over the field, just making sure that he was starting. Oh man, what a strange slate this was. But I hope you guys had some fun with the Jock Market. We sure did. It's a lot of fun to be able to do this for the half hour after the show. So thanks for sticking around, and good luck, everybody.
All right, James Johnson, 50 fantasy points. I guarantee it. That'll end it. That'll end the show for tonight, guys. Thanks a lot for hanging around.